Welcome, gamers, to Basement Arcade Pause Menu, the show where we hit pause, sit back, and just chill. I'm your host, Ben Magnet, and today I have with me royalty. No, I'm not joking. This guy is a streamer. He's also a really cool dude on Twitter. I've been talking to him a lot. He actually gives really good retro questions that actually make me think and go, that's a good question. He asks questions which I ponder. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Ron the Pharaoh. How's it going, sir?
What's going on, man? Like I said, feeling blessed to be here, man. Again, appreciate you. Life is good. Life is good right now.
That's good. I mean, you are Egyptian royalty, so I kind of feel like Bruce Banner in that scene of Avengers Endgame where he's talking to Rhodey. He's like, he's a king. Should we bow? Do I bow? Do I address you as your majesty? I mean, I used to be really good with the ancient Egyptian history, but I was like, did they call their kings and queens or their pharaohs majesty back then? I don't know.
Wild, isn't
it? It is wild. It really is. So, sir, to those who might not know who exactly you are, please tell us a little bit about yourself, because I know you stream on Twitch and you also have a big following on Twitter, but enlighten us, if you will.
All right. Again, I want to say first and foremost, appreciate you having me. For those who know who I am, my name is Ronell. I am known as Ron the Pharaoh on Twitch. I also go by Ron B, Cool Beezy, Raging Cajun, Mr. Icy, Mr. Thirst Trap, Miss Cookies and Cream. I can't say my last name, but I'll say it though. Mr. Thirst Pipe. I am a retro variety streamer and retro gaming collector. I'm also a mental health advocate. I do mental health streams every Tuesday, and also build model on Gundam figurines like this right here. I'm really big to the Gundam series.
You, sir, are a fan of the Gundam. I did not know that.
Yeah, I've been building.
I'm a fan of the Gundam.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, this is okay. So I don't have any. I've never made any. Okay, that's a lie. I have made Gunplas before, but that was way back in the day, and it was the Burning Gundam and the Bolt Gundam, and I was not good at it. And because this is like an old band. This is my first figure. This is my very first Bandai Mobile Suit Gundam figurine that I ever got. It's the RX-78-2. Or not RX-79. It's the GM head unit from Gundam. It's from Ace Mobile Suit Team.
Yeah, because I actually built RX-78-2 Gundam I think around the summertime. It's a high grade though, but like it's a really cool build. Really lots of detail, man. Lots of good weapons. Because one thing about that build, you could put everything on it, like like actually the cannons, the sword, the shield. It looks just right.
Nice.
But yeah, I've been doing Gunpla for about 4 months now. It's been very therapeutic. So yeah.
I had no idea you were a Gundam fan, because every time someone says, "I was like, hey, I also like Gundam," I perk up. I'm like, oh, someone else who likes Gundam. Yay!
Now here's the thing. I've only watched a few Gundam series though, because like I said, one thing about the Gundam universe is so vast. Like
God, yes.
Like I've watched Gundam Wing on this Walt and Double O, and I watched SD Gundam. I do want to watch Gundam Seed and Iron Blooded Orphans. It's just so much going for it though. But I will get to it though.
I will highly recommend Gundam Seed. So Gundam Seed wasn't the first Gundam show I ever watched. It was the one I have seen in its entirety.
Really?
Thanks to Cartoon Network, because Cartoon Network was airing Gundam Seed as it was a big Toonami thing. I had that sucker TiVo'd. Like, there was no way in hell I was going to miss an episode of Gundam Seed. That sucker was TiVo'd, and whenever a new episode came up, I was like, leave me alone. I'm watching my Gundam.
And TiVo was so clutch back then too, man. Because like, remember back in the day, we had to, record stuff on VCRs and whatnot. All you need to do, man, just put a reminder, it record by itself. Once you're going from work, bam, you're good to go. So yeah.
I cannot tell you how many final episodes of shows that I've wanted to see and I missed because of TiVo. Digimon being the big one, the original series of Digimon.
Yeah.
I was at I told this to another friend of mine, but I was at my friend's house in Murrieta, California, and he had a flag football game which started at the same time the last episode of Digimon was gonna air.
Oh, damn.
I did not see the last episode of Digimon until 15 plus years later.
Because also the hardest part too, because you have to think, back when kids and teenagers and whatnot, if you miss episode, you can't watch it again. Nope. Nowadays, HBO Max and YouTube, you can watch episodes in order. So yeah, it was actually difficult. Because I remember watching Yu Yu Hakusho back in the day, and episodes used to come out every week and whatnot. I'm a big Yu Yu Hakusho fan, by the way. One of my favorite animes. Yes.
Oh yeah.
And I actually watched the entire series around 2011, 2012, and watched it in full. I'm like, man, this is good. But remember back then we couldn't do that. It just came out every week.
Oh man, you're gonna hate me for this. So started. So of course I watched Yu Yu Hakusho when I was on Toonami. I absolutely love that show, and then I fell off of it because I don't know if we changed TV providers or just something happened, and it wasn't on the normal time slot on Cartoon Network anymore. So I'm like, okay, maybe they're not airing Yu Yu Hakusho anymore. It comes back. I see it again, and I'm like, oh shit, I gotta watch this. So I TiVo it, and I get the last episode of Yu Yu Hakusho, and I don't know why, but for some reason, my brain just went on autopilot and went to delete episode on the last damn episode of the show.
Yeah, the last episode wasn't all that. It really wasn't. You know, it was kind of like a loose recap of sorts, though. Then, like, after that, it just stopped. But I would say up until that point, like the first, 100-some episodes, it was the best, though, But the episode, it did suck. It was like, ugh.
Yeah, I mean, everything up to the Dark Tournament where he fights, oh god, the dude with the really cool sunglasses.
Tagoro.
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah.
Like everything up to that, it's like, to me, that's peak Yu Yu Hakusho. Like the series could have ended there and I would have been happy.
Real. Now, I would definitely say this, though. Season 3 was good, but in a different way, though. Because one thing about season 3, when Yusuke fought Sensui and all them, I love the overall, tone of the third season. Because it was about, Sensui want to destroy humanity and whatnot. And it really showed, how bad, humanity was according to, the Yu Hakusho universe. And that really hit me hard, though. Like, man, like, this really taught me a lesson, But I definitely will say season 1 and 2 felt more anime-ish in a sense, you know what I'm saying? So I agree with you there. But season 3, man, was really deep, though.
Yeah, I need to rewatch season 3. When I went back to Yu Yu Hakusho, it was revealed that his dad was like a demon king.
Yep.
And then like the demon world is essentially it's like this power struggle. There's like a bunch of different factions, and then he's like, "Hey, we're just gonna have a big giant ass tournament to decide."
Oh yeah, that was hilarious. Yeah.
And then there's one dude, this one big just rando demon dude wins it, and he's like, "Yo, we just gotta like stay out of the human world," and everyone and all the other demons were like, "Yeah, okay, that's fine."
Right, come back in 3 years, do it all over again. Yep.
Yeah.
Now, one thing about season 4 I didn't like too much about Yu Hakusho, Kuwabara. You know what I'm saying? Even though Kuwabara was technically weak compared to the characters, he still had impact in the series. But in season 4, he's not there anymore. It's like, why?
Oh man, my memory is a little fuzzy on that part. So because I just remember like some key scenes. Like when Yusuke is fighting the demon guy, the other demon king who's blind, who always has his eyes closed. What's his name?
Yomi.
Yeah, that guy. Yeah, I just remember him because you see the Yusuke's tattoos and it's like, haha, I have a shield of demon power, and then he's like, and Yusuke's just like continuously fighting.
Yep, I remember that part. Yeah, that was
and
so
then
dope.
It's like, yeah, and then it's like all of a sudden his tattoos disappear and his beams go from red to blue because he's not using his demon power, he's using his spirit power.
Yep, that's both. Like,
and the other guy's like, well, shit, I don't have anything to protect myself against spirit power. And then he loses. And it's like, yeah, he's out of tournament. He can't run for the king of the world or whatever.
Yeah, that was such a dope series, man. Like, I love Yu Hakusho, like one of my favorite animes of all time, man.
Yeah, I need to get back. But funny enough, we're not here to talk about anime as much as I would love to continue talking about anime. You, good sir, are here to talk about retro video games. Now, when I contacted you and I asked you if there's a specific topic. Good Lord.
You're good, man.
Good Lord. There's a specific topic you would like to talk about. I gave you some ideas, and then you gave one back that I really enjoyed, which was retro video game collecting and how to get other people into video game collecting. Now, just to give you a heads up, we did talk about retro game collecting on the show once before. However, that was my guest on the show was Todd the Top Loader, who lives all the way down in Australia.
Ah, okay.
You, sir, do not live in Australia, and I'm pretty sure that there's still a big difference, and there's still some meat on those bones that we can get at.
Oh yeah.
And also, I love to talk about how getting others into retro video games, because now retro video gaming is becoming more mainstream in a way. I see YouTubers pop up about it all the time. I see more people. I go to the stores and I see like retro video game T-shirts. I see people a little bit younger than me at wearing said T-shirts, and it's like, oh yeah, my dad played the N64 when I was a kid.
Yeah,
I mean that's a little bit of a I'm old, but at the same time, it's like this thing is still my hobby. Something that I grew up with is reaching the younger generation. So let's just go ahead and dive right into it.
Let's go.
As a retro video game collector, what do you collect? Is there a specific system? Are there things that you don't want to collect? Like, give me all the juicy details, bud.
Because here's the thing, I've only been collecting for about a year now, but I've been games since I was 6 years old. I first started collecting last year because I wanted to get back into my roots. I first started with Game Boy, handhelds, and I think that's a good way to actually start collecting on handhelds and whatnot. And over time, I got a PS2 back there. One of my mods on Twitch actually gifted me as a Christmas present. I went from PS2, I went to Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo. I went to GameCube, but I say the one thing I collect for the most as of right now is usually a little bit of everything, but like I want to focus more on say anything Sega based, like Sega Genesis, Master System, Sega CD, Sega Saturn. I really want to focus on Sega Saturn, but the thing is that the USA copies of those games cost so much. It's like, damn, like oh man.
So I don't know about you, but I call myself a little video game historian. I got some like video game history books right here.
Oh wow! Okay.
I love reading about video game history, and of course, one of my favorite eras of said history is the console war between Sega and Nintendo. I may be wearing a bunch of Nintendo stuff right now, but back in the day, you could have drafted me for this. I was drafted in the side of Sega. I was a Sega kid all the way because of this dude. It's all his fault. It's all Sonic's fault.
See, we're gonna be best friends, man. Big Sonic fan. I love me some Sonic, man. And like, don't get me wrong, I do respect Nintendo, but like, I feel like everybody, back in the day was a Nintendo fan, because you got to think back, to 1985 when the NES came out, like that's all we had. Nintendo, brought the North American market back, so everybody was a Nintendo fan. But Sega came out of nowhere and said, we're gonna do our own thing and challenge the Titan. That's a big thing to do,
Oh yeah.
And for Sega to make a mascot, man, and actually go the distance with, Mario and Zelda and what Nintendo is, that's always gonna make respect Sega. For real,
Yeah, when Sonic came out, I was less than a year old when Sonic hit the Genesis in 1991. I was born in 90, and for some reason, I don't know what it is. I still don't know. I don't know if it was his speed, if it was design, if his shade of blue, what exactly it was about Sonic that as a young child made me latch onto him so much, and that essentially that love grew over the years. I will also be the first to admit that he's not been in all of his games aren't the greatest.
They're not, man.
Yeah, he's been in a few stinkers. Six. Excuse me. But at the same time, like those classic Genesis games are still very easy to go back to. They're fun to play. But yeah, looking at the war between Sega, because you're right, Sega wanted to challenge the Titan. Sega was there as like, we want this. We can do this too. And I feel that they proved it, but of course it was the infighting between Sega of America and Sega of Japan that really brought them down. Whereas with Nintendo, I want to say they may have not been in complete harmony the whole time, but they definitely had cards up their sleeve that were able to have them still be in the console game and still be a major player in the console game today.
And one thing about Nintendo is the fact, they take their brand seriously. You know what I'm saying? Like let's say if a crappy Mario game was to come out, though, look what would happen. You know what I'm saying? People actually would throw a fit, And like one thing that really pissed me off though about when the Sega Saturn came out though, man, like we didn't really get like a good Sonic game for a 3D 32-bit system. Are you serious? But look what Nintendo did, Mario 64. Like, come on, if your main franchise doesn't have actually a good game, that's an issue, especially in the West. You know what I'm saying? We love seeing our mascots. You know what I'm saying? Because what's wild, because in Japan, though, man, the Sega Saturn sold really well. But, you know what I'm saying? You got to think, we want to spread the brand out, though, man. And, and if the brand's not catching on, it's going to be an issue. And that's what happened.
Yeah, it was Sega shooting them in the foot, or shooting themselves in the foot, too. Because, look, once again, going back to history, because Sega, a lot of times when Sega was trying to push the envelope, they pushed the envelope too far. And a lot of their consoles, I would definitely say, like the Saturn and the Dreamcast, especially the Dreamcast, were definitely before its time.
Yep.
With the Saturn, of course, CD-based games, and it's like it came out the same day that they announced it at E3, which of course pissed every single retailer off because they're like, what?
We're not gonna actually have everything in stock,
Yeah, and like next thing you know, I can only imagine some poor soul at that E3 in 1994, and some guy's working a Walmart or a Target somewhere. They come in for their shift, and all of a sudden there's this big giant truck, and this guy's like, "Hey, I got a bunch of Sega Saturns for you," and the guy's like, "You got a bunch of what for me?"
Really?
What do you mean you got a bunch of Sega Saturns? I got like a box full of 32Xs that aren't selling. When was this gonna, like, that person's probably calling their managers like, what the frack, man?
Yeah, like for real, like like you tell me it's such short notice though, man. I'm trying to get rid of this previous product though. It's not selling that well. Now what?
Yeah, let's see. It went from like $100. It went from like 102 or not 102, 120 or something, and then it went down to 60, and then it went down to 40, and eventually just went on sale for like 20 to $10.
Like what was the purpose of the 32X? To be honest, like
Mhm.
Cause it's wild because the fact that the Neptune was actually a standalone 32X actually would be a thing, but it never came out. So it's like, what was the point then? Like, so I feel like to me, honestly, even when the Sega CD coming out, I still feel like that and Genesis would have been good by themselves, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because Sega, they kept trying to push the boundary or push the limits of the Genesis, which I mean, I can't fault them for that because they're also trying to like be ahead of the curve. Because back in the early '90s, if you had more bits, you had better. It was like more bits equals better the game, which obviously isn't true. I mean, there's a plethora of bad Genesis and SNES games out there, and then of course Atari comes up with the Jaguar, and let's be real, who really remembers the Jaguar?
Yeah, piece of crap, man. Damn.
I mean, respect for it, but at the same time, it's like you were like dead last.
Right.
I feel
even like I'm saying that the TurboGrafx 16, I'm saying actually was a big Titan though, so come on,
I do. There was this other YouTuber who followed me on Twitter, and he put up a video about the TurboGrafx 16 because he played the TurboGrafx, and he never played a Genesis. He was kind of like he would. It's been a while since I last saw this man's video, but he was like very like the Sega Genesis like sucked compared to the TurboGrafx 16. And I'm sitting there kind of with I am biased because I grew up.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't grow up with a Sega system, but I grew up wanting to play Sega games. Yep. So I'm kind of like, okay. But then he mentioned Street Fighter 2 and how like the 3-button pad on the Genesis wasn't, you had to have the 6-button one to play that game properly. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll give you that one. That's like not the best port of Street Fighter.
It is not.
But barring that, a lot of the other stuff, I'm just like, is it though?
Like, don't get me wrong, the PC Engine T16 was a good system. I actually got into some, T16 games like around 2017, 2018-ish, and many shoot 'em up, so many. But the thing is, in the West, though, man, they just couldn't compete against Nintendo and Sega. It just got overlooked. But in Japan, like, the PC Engine sold really well,
Oh, yeah. Once COVID's over, I just cannot wait to go to Japan because I've been watching a bunch of videos of other YouTubers and retro video gamers who are either went to before the COVID hit or are currently living in Japan. And they're like, hey, we're in Akihabara and we're going to go to this store called Super Potato. It's a retro video game store that's 3 stories tall that has like 3 floors dedicated to games. I'm like, that is the Holy Land. To me, that is like video game Holy Land.
Yes. One of my favorite YouTubers is Kid Shoryuken because he actually lives in Japan. Man, I love his videos because he actually does retro game shop and stuff like that. And like just looking at some of his videos, man, and like some of the pickups he gets, I'm like, man, I wish I could go to Japan.
Even here in the United States, because one of my favorite retro YouTubers, Metal Jesus.
I know him. Yep.
Yeah, he goes to a bunch of different states. Like he's like, hey, I went to Arizona and I went to Phoenix and I went retro game shopping, and here's some really cool pickups. Or I'm in Portland and here's some other retro pickups. Yeah. And I'm just sitting there going like, I want to go.
Wish I could,
Yeah. And I'm over here. I'm like, hey, bank account. Nope. Something input.
Man, I'm pretty sure as much as I do, man, and retro game collecting, it's more mainstream, but that's a double-edged sword too because everybody wants to get into it. So with that, the demand's going to be much higher. So yeah, stuff can go up.
So I've been wanting to talk about this for a while. This is probably going to be its own episode later down the line, and also I want to have a panel to it because I think this is a really big topic that's been, I don't want to say plaguing the retro video game. The retro video game community as of now, but it's definitely something we should be aware of, and that's the whole WADA game scandal. I'm sure you're aware of this, right?
I'm somewhat aware of it. I know what it is. Yes. Yeah.
So, what's your 2 cents about these like investors, these people who have these games and are selling these mass-produced retro video games at obscene prices? What's your 2 cents on that?
I mean, to be honest, is like, what's the purpose of it though? Because like, I think I saw one to like where like Sonic the Hedgehog was like $25,000 or something like that. I'm like,
it was like 400. It was 400 some thousand because 2 weeks, like a week and a half or 2 weeks ago, Golden Auctions put up a tweet about a air quotes sealed Sonic the Hedgehog game. But if you zoomed in on the picture that they had, there was damage to the box, but it was a WADA graded 9.8 grade A plus.
That's like near perfection right there, right?
Yeah, it's like, and so many other people were talking about it, and Yuji Naka himself, like tweeted at, it's like, what's this?
Like, really? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yuji Naka himself was like, what? And a lot of it's a lot of people just like yelling. It's like, hey, you're kind of killing the retro game market here, because these people think, oh, I have a classic Super Mario Bros. This could sell for thousands. It's like, no, it shouldn't.
real, like I said, that game is like super common. Like, you can find Super Mario Brothers loose cart for about like 10-15 bucks nowadays. Like, even like a sib, even like a sib domain, like, might be a little more pricey, but like, it's not gonna be that much though. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, my thing is about this, like, again, like, why are these like super common games? I can see something like, you know, like Hagane or like Little Samson being like somewhat that pricey, but even then, you know what I'm saying, they're not gonna be like about, you know, $25,000-$30,000 though, you know. But common games, no, like, you can get those anywhere. No. You definitely can.
I mean, also okay, if you get a sealed game that's from the 1980s, yes, treasure, because that's a sealed game. It has all the stuff inside, and like with Super Mario Bros, it's a super common game. Me personally, as of this moment right now, I have 8 different ways to play Super Mario Bros. Yep. That is if Nintendo has one thing, if Nintendo can give you a way to play the original Super Mario Bros, no questions asked. It's the easiest thing to play. Like,
exactly. You know,
got from like the stuff on the Switch, the NES Classic. I have my NES in the drawer, to the freaking Game and Watch.
Exactly. It's like, why you're selling it for that much?
It's easy to play this game. So yeah, if you have a sealed copy, I would understand you want to protect it and you want to keep it safe, because it's like, it's sealed. It's like it's a piece of gaming history. That game helped save the video game market here in America. But I mean, sealed, yeah, I could shell a few $100 for a completely sealed copy of Super Mario Bros. I would even shell $100 for a CIB copy of Super Mario Bros. If the box is in a good condition and everything. But there's no way in hell I'm paying over $1 million for that goddamn thing.
Like, come on, you can find that legit anywhere. You know what I'm saying? Like Mario, Sonic, Zelda, like any mainline franchise, you can find for a reasonable price. So there's no reason why, you know, people are charging that much, you know, for a sealed copy of a common game. Like, you're just really just, you know, you're ripping people off. You know,
it is absolutely nuts. Because even when I was doing, like, air quotes here, doing some research, because I wrote an article. I don't know if you know, but I also write freelance for oldschoolgamermagazine.com.
Oh, really?
I wrote an article about why it was an opinion piece on why the whole WATA games fad scares me. Is because luckily here in Southern California, even though I can't go to other states to their retro game stores, I do have quite a few retro game stores in my area that I can get to within an hour, in an hour or less than an hour, or if I want to drive farther out. Either way, I got stores, I got places to go. So if you ever come to Southern California, hit me up and we'll go shopping.
Got you.
But at the same time, it scares me that these people are selling these games, or at least they're buying, and maybe like they're inflating the price up. So a mom and pop store who who doesn't know much about video games will hear this news, and then they go to their stock and go, oh, we actually have this game, and then they just jack the price up, and people are gonna be like, what the hell? This isn't no.
And you know what's funny about that too, man? Because I actually went to one of my retro stores around a month ago, and there's a copy of Shoot Your Age 2, one of the most common beat 'em ups of all time. They're trying to sell that game loose card for $60. I paid $20 for mine. I shit you not, man. I shit you not. No joke. It's still up there now, for real.
Oh my gosh. I mean, thankfully on Twitter and a bunch of other people who have been talking about this whole WATA thing, a lot of game collectors, and even I think some people who sell video games, who sell classic video games, they're like, this is some bullshit. This is some straight up BS. And they're like, yo, we will, at least the stores that are reputable and try to give good prices, because there are places, and even around here, where I go to a store, I check price charting sometimes to see if the price they're selling for it is reasonable. Like, the most I'll pay is like maybe $10-15 over than what price charting says. Because I mean, especially now with the pandemic or with the pandemic winding down, I still really want to support my local stores and, of course, these small businesses. And if I have to pay a little bit extra so they can stick around and stay, you know what? I'll be willing to do that, because I want to support them and I want to keep them going. And the ones that survived during this pandemic, it's like, yes, I want to make sure they're still here, because a lot of them also have arcades inside of them, and I really like going there with my friends.
Because that's one of mine's too. About 15 minutes where I live at, they actually sell like, you know, collectible toys and stuff like that. They actually sell retro stuff, and they have a couple arcades in there too. And it's actually dope to have that, you know. So yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's like the best or the best combo of a store. It's like you have a retro video game store that also has a few collectibles here and there, and they also have an arcade. That's to me, that's just like the absolute best. So you like, because the place I go to, you pay like $10 for an hour,
That's
or
not
like or $30 for 2 people for 2 hours, and it's like all the games are set to free play, so you can be in front of a certain game to try to get the high score for the day.
that's actually not bad. Seriously, because like other than that place out there, like my nearest actual arcade spot is about an hour away, like to Nashville. Is actually a barcade spot. So yeah,
Okay. Yeah, there's a few of them close to me, but there's another that's a true arcade, like a true retro arcade. Once again, you go in, you pay for a certain amount of time, all the games are set to free play, but there's no like retro video game store attached to it. It's a sole arcade. They had two. Luckily, they have survived the pandemic, but they had to close one of their locations down, and that's one of the locations I really liked going to because it was close to another friend's house where we would record the podcast. And now that they're shut down, or that one location shut down, their other one is in Pasadena, which is about, I want to say, 40 to 45-minute drive away from where I am.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still manageable to get to, but still, it's in like downtown Pasadena. You have to find parking, you have to do this. It's a bunch of hoops
that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you ever been to the greater LA area, but traffic be like that.
Oh yeah, I've heard. Like I've actually been to Cali, but when I was in the military, I went to Fort Irwin. Do you know where that's at?
Oh, north or south?
I think it's south. I want to say south. But I actually went there. I was in the military. I was there for about 30 days. So that's actually the most I've seen of Cali. So yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But like games like, like I do want to copy Street Rage 3, and that game's about $70-$80. Okay, I get why that game is kind of expensive because it's kind of somewhat rare, you know what I'm saying? But like not Street Rage 2. Come on. Like you can find that about $20, But yeah, it's still up there to this day. I kid you not, man.
I'm pretty sure if you go to like, I want to say like 3 out of 5 retro game stores are probably gonna have a copy of Streets of Rage 2. Just a copy. It could be CIB, it could be loose, it could be whatever. I mean, you could probably just like throw a stone and like one of them's gonna hit either a Mario game, Sonic, or Streets of Rage.
Oh yeah.
That game is easy to find. So, getting off of the whole WADA games and like the prices jumping up. So you said that you also been collecting for a bunch of handhelds. I also have been collecting for a bunch of handhelds. Right now, my main handhelds are Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, and my Nintendo DS.
Okay, all right.
The reason why, though, is because those are very small cartridges. And space is a bit of a factor for me at the moment.
But the good thing about collecting for handhelds, that I would say if you want to get into retro gaming collecting, that's a good place to start off. Because with handhelds, most of those games are still really cheap. Like Super Mario Land, about $5. You know what I'm saying? 10 tops of that, And getting like Game Boy and stuff like that, you can put them anywhere. I could put, most of my collection in this little container, right? You can't see it though, but I can put most of my stuff in here, Because one thing about collecting as a whole, I'm pretty sure you know as well as I do, space can be a thing.
Yes.
Like, I'm surprised I can fit everything on these 2 shelves right here, But if you have a bigger collection, you actually spanning across the entire room and whatnot,
Oh, just wait, all right. So let me move my camera down here a little bit. So you see this dresser right here?
Yeah.
Right, so my entire video game collection is in this dresser.
Really?
Yeah. All my games. There's different drawers. Like I have my PlayStation drawer, I have my Nintendo drawer, and I have my drawer for the bottom for a few board games that I have that we don't have stored downstairs, and strategy guides because I have a few strategy guides here.
Oh, strategy guides! I heard that term for so long, man.
Oh man, I know that's a big blast from the past.
Seriously.
So, I mean, luckily my PlayStation drawer it's got some room in it. So a friend of mine at work, he was very kind enough to give me his modded PlayStation 3. I never had a PlayStation 3 before. And he was just like, yo, I got 3 of them. He has a new gaming PC that he can like do some emulations on it. And he asked me if I want his PS3. I'm like, I'm not going to say no to a free console. Hell
right. You know what I'm saying? That's more of my collection,
I mean, I need some controllers and I need the cords for it, but that's besides the point. The point is I now have a PS3 and I now have a new console that I can start collecting for. And I'm looking at the PS3 games like, awesome, I have space. But when it comes to Nintendo, I don't have a lot of space anymore. And even my drawer is starting to get filled up.
Because what comes to Nintendo, man, is like there's so much. Even like, for NES alone, though, man, over what, 700 or 1,000 games for just North American PAL NES? Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I still have my original NES, like my original toaster model that I got for Christmas one year. That was actually a mistake. And what I mean by a mistake, I asked for a Super Nintendo, and all my dad heard was Nintendo, and he gave me that instead.
Hey, it'd be like that.
Hey, the way I see it, I lucked out. So I haven't been really collecting the for Super Nintendo or even Super Nintendo because my roommate has a modded SNES that's hooked up right now. Mostly because the games I really want to play are either on the Nintendo Switch online services already, or they were on the classic minis. Because I have both. I have all three of the big ones: SNES, NES, and Sega Genesis.
Oh yeah.
And I feel that with those three systems, that was one of the perfect ways to get the younger generation or people into retro video games.
I so agree with that, man. Because like, if you really think about it, man, again, it goes back to collecting. Is someone gonna collect, old school console, from back in 1990 though? I feel like, to me personally, albeit it's emulation, it's still a good way, to get someone into retro gaming again. And that you also got to think as well, you can hack those. So on top of putting, the 20 games already on those systems, you can put a lot more though. And I think that's a really good way, to bridge, the gap between, us and retro enthusiasts to the newer generation. So releasing those mini consoles was one of the best things ever, happened.
Yeah, I just wish they were still I was lucky to get in mine because I also remember when, what was it, 2016 when they announced the NES Classic, and then I was like, oh hey, that, because I even told my girlfriend and my mom, and I was like, hey, what do you want for your birthday? And I'm like, oh, I would like that because I think that's a really neat idea. I can plug it in. And I have a bunch of classic games. I don't have to worry about finding the cartridges anymore. I don't have to worry about plugging my NES into a newer TV because, if you plug it just right in there, it's not going to look good.
Oh, yeah, because you got upscales and stuff like that, too.
Yeah, HD TVs, they upscale that thing. But once again, CRT TVs are becoming more rare, and they're also more expensive.
Yes. Because I remember back around, even like early mid 2000s, you could find CRT for about what, like dummy cheap, but like nowadays it's really expensive to find those, because again, it goes back, to retro gaming. When you think, retro gaming, you think, of retro games and the TVs that we used to play on them back in the day. So people want that, so the demand's gonna go up much higher. So,
and then of course I look back on it and I go, oh man, I probably could have, but once again, it's a CRT TV. These things are big, they take up so much more space than a flat screen. So my mother, she had a CRT TV for the longest time. It was this old TV that we've had for ages. So she's up in her little apartment, and I remember having to carry that heavy ass TV up a flight of stairs to get inside her apartment. It was like a hard plastic too. It dug into my hands. It was every time. That was her only TV, and the picture, when I would go to visit her and we would watch football together, it wasn't like the best picture quality, but this is all she had. And I wasn't going to be like, oh, Mom, you need to get a better TV. Because I knew if she were to get a better TV, we would have to take it out. And I don't want to take it out again.
I don't blame you. I don't. Again, those TVs are freaking heavy, man. Man, I remember we used to move and whatnot, man. Having to actually carry old CRT TVs, man. Never again.
I remember one day one vacation, I came home, and once we got back home, there's this big giant TV in our living room, and it was like one of the biggest things I've ever seen. Because apparently my dad got a killer deal on a brand new TV. It was this huge big screen. I was like, oh sweet, but also it had the yellow, white, and red connections in the front, so we can plug in our game systems right there. We didn't have to worry about looking in the back, hooking it up that way, and being like, oh, we have to do this. It's so annoying.
Yeah, because I do not miss RF switches. I don't. Those things are the devil. I hate those damn things.
Yeah, but eventually my mom did get a better TV, and thankfully she was able to get someone else to haul that giant TV away. And this was before I really started collecting retro video games, because now I'm getting into this more. I want to play I want to play my PS1 again. I want to play my PS2. I want to play all these things. And then people are saying, like, oh yeah, we need to get like a CRT so these games look good. And I'm thinking back to that old CRTV because my mom either sold it to Best Buy or she just straight up got rid of it. And I'm like, if I'd have known, but at the same time, I don't know where I was gonna put it.
Yeah, because again, those things take up space. So yeah,
which is why I feel like the mini consoles are like, if you're able to find a mini console even today, because I feel you could probably find a Sega Genesis one a lot easier, but the SNES and especially the regular NES are going to be harder to find. But if you are able to find one of those, hacked or not, I feel those are perfect because they were made for HD TVs.
Mm-hmm. And again, they're easy to pick up and play, man. You know, you could do save state still, man. So it's still retro, but you have to think back in the day, we didn't have that. So save being a save state stuff, you know, play, you know, a bunch of the best games that, you know, the consoles offer. You're getting that full experience right off the bat, you know.
Yeah, like even when I'm at retro video game stores and I see like original copy of Metroid, it says it's a password pack where you have to, where when you stop or if you die, the password pops up like in old Mega Man games.
Yeah,
you write down the password and then you enter it in, and it's like, okay, there's your save. It's like that's how you start the game again.
And was that password? Yeah, you start over again.
You're starting all the way over again. So we talked about getting people into retro video games. So of course, like if someone is like, yeah, I'm interested. I would like to go back or I would like to try a retro video game. What era would you say? Like we're going like at 8, 16, and 32. What era would you think would be the best, like the absolute best way to get someone into retro video games?
16-bit, man, because you got to think about it, man. You know, the Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo were two of the best. You know what I'm saying? They made some of the best games, though. You got to think for Super Nintendo, Super Mario World, Link to the Past, Super Metroid, Earthbound, and a bunch of JRPGs like Chrono Trigger, you know, Final Fantasy games, Sega Genesis, Sonic, Golden Axe, Shinobi, Altered Beast, Gunstar Heroes, Dynamite Heady. Like, you got some of the best games that still hold up today in those two eras. Now, 8-bit is good, don't get me wrong, but some of those games can be a little bit too difficult. Let's be honest, NES hard is a thing. So, yeah.
Oh, there was I remember when it's like, yeah, this game is Nintendo hard. That was like playing this sucker right here. It was like or even, okay, so even the SNES and the Genesis got games that were also stupid hard, Lion King.
Oh, man.
I played it on Friday. More flashbacks?
I actually played it on Random Retro on my stream on Friday. Never again. That game is freaking difficult. Because someone actually requested that game too. It's a great game, but stupid freaking hard. Like, damn.
How dare they?
It's a great game, though.
Well, you know, the developers actually came out and apologized for making the game difficult.
Man, and like you would think, you know, playing, you know, Castlevania and like, you know, Mega Man stuff like that, we'll get used to that though. But Lion King's like a whole nother beast, man. Oh, I'd say it's actually come again.
You know why they did it, right?
Why?
Disney. Because when Lion King and Aladdin were like when the games were being developed and made, a lot of like Nintendo and I think Sega was like, yes, we're open to all this. We want people to play our games. And Nintendo was like, we want you to play them, but we want you to buy them first.
Mm-hmm.
And this was during the age of Blockbuster. I remember.
Yep.
I remember watching a gaming historian video about when Nintendo sued Blockbuster and lost.
Oh, wow.
So, of course, Disney came up and like, hey, if people just rent our games, they're not going to buy them. And we want them to buy them. So they actually talked to the developers and said, make these games like really, really hard so kids can't beat them in a weekend, that they get frustrated and they go out and buy it instead.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, that is a smart decision from this perspective, though. But like, if you look at like, you know, the Japanese counterpart of certain games opposed to American ones, though, the Japanese ones seem a bit more balanced. But then again, it's because of the rental scene back in the day, you know, like a prime example, Ninja Gaiden 3 and Ninja Ryukenden 3, you know, two different versions. But man, you'll be surprised you play the American version. Go to the Japanese one. It's much more balanced. Man.
Or even to not to counter, but to add to that point, when Super Mario Bros. 2 came to the United States.
Oh, yeah.
Because in reality, Super Mario 2 was actually Super Mario. Okay, for us, and here in the United States, Super Mario Bros. 2, as a lot of us know, is a reskin of a game called Doki Doki Panic.
Yep.
Whereas the real Super Mario Bros. 2 is relabeled as Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels.
Mm-hmm.
Because those games are stupid, because those levels are stupid hard. Thankfully,
yeah.
I can play the Lost Levels on my Nintendo Switch and on this beauty, which
mm-hmm.
I couldn't even get past the first level.
Yeah, and like if you really think about it back in the day, though, man, you know, that's actually good as a marketing decision because, like, you gotta think, you know, Nintendo actually, you know, just came, you know, and really revitalized North American gaming market. So if you're making a game that's actually too hard and that's your main mascot, you're gonna lose money like that. So what do? You reskin a game based on another one, and I would definitely will say Mario Brothers 2 USA is still a good game, though, despite being a reskin, though. But that's actually smart to do that. And I'm really glad, you know, when All Stars came out for Super Nintendo, we did get the actual true Mario Brothers 2 experience, though.
We did. Yeah. I mean, props to Nintendo, because I guess they realized that as the Nintendo, or not the Nintendo market, the video game market here in America was embracing games again, and gamers were getting really good at these video games. So it's like, okay, maybe we can release these super hard games. And it turns out that gamers did enjoy it. I mean, of course, you have the casuals, you have the hardcores, and you have people who who have these, like, there's people who have Super Metroid memorized like the back of their hand. I just played Super Metroid for the very first time. It is, bar none, the best Metroid game ever made. It is so good.
It is, man.
But I had to play it with the guide because, goddamn, I did not know where to go.
Yeah, because you gotta think though, man. Back then, though, like that game isn't really. It doesn't really tell you where to go per se. It's more open ended though. So
no, it doesn't. It doesn't tell you where to go, like at all.
For real. And speaking of Super Metroid, one of my actual viewers, his name is Epic Android. He's like a Super Metroid speedrunner. This man has mastered the hell out of this game. And like, man, because when I actually played Super Metroid on stream, I think it was last year around it was like mid 2020. He actually walked me through it, you know, because I played Super Metroid in the past, but like never beaten it in full. And I got lost. I'm like, what the hell? Like, really? But then again, like, I'd rather take Super Metroid than the original Metroid, because you got to think back when OG Metroid came out, there was no map system. So, yeah.
No, there was no map system. And of course, when Metroid 2 Samus Returns came out on the Game Boy, you had to make a map yourself. I don't know if you bought the game, it came with a map inside, which would have been super helpful.
Yeah.
But at least when they remade it for Samus Returns on the 3DS, there was a map in, like, your bottom screen was the map.
Oh yeah. So, and also the fan made remake AM2R, the Metroid 2 remake has it too, you know. So
yeah. So luckily Nintendo, and of course we got Metroid Dread coming. At the time of this recording, Metroid Dread hasn't come out yet, but yeah, I am so excited for Metroid Dread.
Man, because I'm glad you brought that up, because one thing about me, I'm not the biggest Nintendo guy, but I love me some Metroid. It's one of my favorite Nintendo franchises. And the fact, you know, I always feel like, to me personally, games like Metroid, F-Zero, and Star Fox, they're kind of like, you know, the redhead stepchild of Nintendo. Let's be real about that, you know. And
you know, I don't want to call them the redheaded stepchild, but at the exact same time, I can't argue. I want to say they're not, but they kind of are in a way. It's like
they have a fan base. Don't get me wrong, but compared to Mario and Zelda, even Smash, even Animal Crossing, like those four franchises right there, like just Nintendo Titans though. And what's wild, because like, you know, Star Fox, F-Zero, Metroid, they have sequels and they have a big fan base. But compared to like the AAA ones, they do they kind of fall kind of short though, you know. And I hate that.
Yeah, those games, because don't get me wrong, those games like Star Fox, F-Zero, Metroid, they are Nintendo staples. They are the pillars that help create Nintendo into the powerhouse that it is today.
Yep.
But of course, with every new Switch, we have to have a new Mario game. We have to have a new Zelda game. Don't get me wrong, amazing franchises on their own right. I was so enraptured with Breath of the Wild when I was first playing it on my Switch, and the Legend of Zelda: Link Between Worlds on the 3DS essentially got me out of the gaming funk and got me back into video games. Like this is it. I love video games again. I don't want to ever stop playing this hobby. But at the same time, it's like, where's Metroid? Where's F? You know what? I would love to have an F-Zero game. I mean, yes, we have an F-Zero track in Mario Kart 8 or 2 F-Zero tracks, but that's still not the same.
It's not. Like, why is Captain Falcon not an actual playable character? I at least did that though, man, you know. But I think what it is, because, you know, since Mario Kart is like the big, you know, competitive racing game on Nintendo, is like, why F-Zero? Because I'm actually a bigger F-Zero fan. I think, to me personally, it's like it's more of a skillful based game, but I would definitely say Mario Kart is a bit more accessible. It's more fun though. Anybody get into it though, you know? Yeah.
F-Zero. I feel this also goes back to when like games were Nintendo hard. Like say, okay, with Super Metroid. Every person I've talked to about Super Metroid has not said a bad thing about Super Metroid. It is it is one of the best I mean, the only time I may have man, this really pissed me off was the wall jumping thing, because I could not get that to save my life.
Yeah, it's better in Fusion Zero Mission, much better.
Oh no, I played through all the Metroids. I just recently beat Fusion, and it was so much easier to do it in Fusion. My God.
Like, that's the minor complaint I have about Super Metroid. The wall jump is a bit finicky though, you know. But yeah, besides that though, it's still one of the best games of all time. Atmosphere, you know, gameplay, presentation. Super Metroid nails it, and it still holds up after.
I mean, sorry to cut you off, but now that I know actually how to wall jump, When I got to that part where you're in the aliens, you have that giant thing. You have to go up and down, up the side, like 4 or 5 times. You have to wall jump 10 times to get to the very top. I'm just like, I can't get this damn wall jump to save my life. I was watching so many YouTube videos on speedrunners. Like they even have like the little controller thing of what their buttons are. And of course, these people are so good because they can just wall jump on the same wall and ascend no problem. Right. And I'm over here playing this game for the first time. I'm like, how?
Like it is a learning curve. It is. It definitely is. Because like I said, the way the wall jump feels, it's like it feels not natural. Like again, if you go back to Zero Mission and Fusion, if you jump off the wall, bam, you're good. Even in Mario, was a bit more, intuitive. But yeah, Super Metroid, it was a little bit of a learning curve. It definitely was. I struggle with it too. I make that same complaint, man.
Still the best Metroid game. However, not my favorite.
Super Metroid, which one's your favorite?
Fusion.
My man, thank you. And I think I'm okay. The reason why Fusion I think too is actually one of the best ones. It's kind of like survival horror, because you see Samus at like her weakest. Because let's be honest. When Metroid first came out until Metroid Fusion, Samus was a straight badass. You know what I'm saying? A one-woman army just wrecking people, But go to Fusion, she lost all her powers. And she feels, you feel that fear with her though. And the SAX, man. That thing is scary.
I hate so Fusion is my favorite because it was also the very first Metroid game I ever got. It came out, so I got my Game Boy. Fusion was coming out for Christmas. I asked my parents for it. They got it for me, and that was my first entry into Metroid games. But at this time, I was like, I want to say I was 12 years old when the game came out.
Same here.
But also, I was a bit of a, I don't want to say impatient, but when I saw a bunch of text, I just skipped. Like when I was playing Pokemon as a kid, I just skip all the text messages.
You sound just like me, man. I'm the same way. Like I want to get into the game.
Yeah. So of course when I'm playing Metroid Fusion, I get stuck a lot. I don't know where to go, and I get stuck in the part where I can't escape, or I don't find the hidden little thing where I can go into my morph ball and like sling through. So eventually I just put the game down. I don't play it for years, and then I give the game away to a friend of mine who bought my Game Boy Advance. Yeah, I just upgraded to the SP, and he really wanted GBA, so he paid me $60 for the system. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to throw in a game. What's the game? Hey, you know what? I'm probably never going to play Metroid again. I'll give you Metroid Fusion. Regrets. Instant regrets.
That game's a banger, man. I think what people gives people issue about Metroid Fusion, it is a bit more linear than Super Metroid. But I think if you want to get into Metroid, like the actual starting off point, Fusion is definitely a good one. It is later in the timeline from like a lower perspective, but in terms of gameplay, it is very intuitive pick up and play. It is,
So I would actually argue that if you want to get into Metroid, I would say start with Zero Mission for the Game Boy Advance, mostly because. Now, I made my mission to play through all the 2D Metroid games in preparation for Metroid Dread. I found Metroid Fusion, I found Zero Mission, I played them all. I love these games.
Oh yeah.
And once I got to Fusion, or even as I'm playing through Super Metroid, or I'm playing through Samus Returns, I'm like, hey, I remember that from the previous game. That's a thing. That was like a little reference. Or when I'm playing Super Metroid, or when I got into Metroid Fusion and I got to the freezer room and I saw Ridley's frozen body.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh shit.
Because you haven't seen Ridley in a long time,
He's not dead. It's like these Federation bastards. Or when you go into the restricted zone and you see all the Metroids. Like when you see the Metroids, it hit different. Because I went from let's murder all the Metroids to I have a baby Metroid here to that baby Metroid saved my life against the Mother Brain. And then I see them all because it's like, oh, the Metroids are extinct. No, they're not.
They're still there, just kicking, and we already saw what the Metroids can do in Metroid 2, going from different larval states, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
Oh, God. Samus Returns. Technologically speaking, Samus Returns was so good. It is an amazing game. And as I was playing it, that was definitely one of those games like, Metroid is awesome. This game is so rad. Like and even when I'm watching the trailers for Dread, I'm like, excellent. They put in a bunch of the stuff that I loved in Samus Returns into this one. That's gonna help me out with the exploration stats. Because when I first played Samus Returns, or the only time I played Samus Returns, really, I put about 15 hours into it, give or take.
Mm-hmm.
And as any super fan, or no pun intended, super fan of Metroid would know, is that in order to get the good ending or the good ending screen, you need to speed run that shit.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. And I definitely will say, looking at Dread, I do like the 2.5D art style. Some people actually argue saying they actually want a sprite animation. In 2021, it wouldn't look bad, so to speak. But I think having 2D gameplay with a third dimension aesthetic, it does fit well. It does. Like it looks like a more improved version of Samus Returns.
It does.
So with that style, I'm all for it. I definitely am.
I mean, I wish you were there, or I wish I was live streaming my reaction at 9:00 in the morning when I was watching the E3 Nintendo Direct.
Yeah, I watched it.
I was like, I mean, my whole thing was, where's Prime? Where's Prime 4? Are you gonna release the Prime trilogy on the Switch? Give me those. I just need those. Just tell me you're gonna release the Prime trilogy. Because I never played the Prime trilogy before. Just give me that so I can finally play these games that my friends are giving me flack for.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're like, we're working on it. I'm like, okay, and
I want something,
I'm like, and what else? And then they're like, but we also have something for you. They did Snap, and then Metroid 5 lost my mind.
Man, because again, the last game we got with Samus Returns was a remake, but like an actual sequel to Fusion. It's been 10, 15, when did Fusion come out? What, 2000?
19 years.
Yeah, it's been
2002.
Okay, yeah, 2002. And it's been that long since we actually got a sequel to Fusion. Like, you gotta think, because it came out for Game Boy Advance. So we did, Metroid Federation Force, but that doesn't really count though. So you got DS. But we got Metroid Prime 3 though, right? Corruption.
Yeah.
So got that.
Corruption. The first two, Prime and Prime 2 Echoes were on the GameCube, and then Prime 3 Corruption was on the Wii, and then they eventually ported all three of them to the Wii, which I had a Wii, and I thought to myself, if I ever see this on the counter, I'm going to get the Metroid Prime trilogy. I never saw it. I never got the Metroid Prime trilogy.
And like the fact we didn't get a Metroid game on the Wii U though is like, man, one console having a Metroid system and even on the Switch until recently, like that's a long time. And like I said before, Metroid is a known franchise. Like Nintendo, what's going on? We finally got it though. And it comes out in 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 6, about 5 days. Man, I cannot wait. Fortunately, I can get a day one. Don't have to wait till afterwards, but I'm gonna get it for sure.
I'm that guy when they announced the special edition. I'm like, oh, I want that because I want the art book. I love having little art books. I love seeing the notes of the developers and the little because once again, this is Metroid's 35th anniversary, and they're putting in like these art cards that celebrate 35 years of Metroid. And I'm like, hey, I like that. And also the steelbook looks great. It's got Samus, it's got the Emmys in the background, all looking menacing as hell. And then all the scalpers took all the pre-orders, and I can't find one.
Good old buying stuff in 2021, man. Even modern stuff's hard, man.
I am praying that I haven't called them yet, but I am praying that my local stores that I follow on Instagram were able to pick up a few copies. I haven't asked them yet, and also I'm praying that by some miracle GameStop. If I have to go to GameStop, I'll go to GameStop. I don't care.
I don't blame you.
I want the special edition of Metroid, and I want to pay MSRP for it. I don't want to pay a scalper an extra $50 for it.
Right, you know what I'm saying? I could put that towards something else. I don't blame you.
Oh. Yeah, I could put that money towards finding the amiibos, which are also.
Yep. But I'm just really glad right now, man. The fact Metroid's getting love again because it deserves it. It is a bit more darker as opposed to other Nintendo franchises and whatnot, but I like it because of that. It's very bleak. The atmosphere is definitely there. Great gameplay, great challenge too. Because Metroid's not an easy game to play. It's kind of challenging, compared to other ones. Which is funny though, man. Because like I do well in Metroid, but suck at Zelda. and I think the thing is with Zelda for me personally, it's the puzzle solving though. I love puzzles, but like I'm used to playing like Tetris and stuff like that. But I see what Zelda's going for though. It's actually part of the gameplay. It's like you're actually living in the world of Hyrule and actually going through the dungeons and solving all that stuff. Because when I played Link's Awakening for the first time, I think early 2021, I got lost a few times. I'm not gonna lie to you, but after playing, I'm like, I see what makes Zelda so amazing.
Yeah, I got Link's Awakening as well, and I absolutely adore that game. I love that. I just love the art style. I just love the way it looks, and I really hope that Nintendo takes older Game Boy or not Game Boy Advance, but older Game Boy titles, i.e., Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons, and makes them into that art style and puts them up.
Oh yeah.
But I completely agree because there were times I would and would not use a guide. Really, it's just like I want to use a guide because I want to find all the heart pieces. I want to find all the stupid little seashells because I want the best sword in the game. But then once I got into a dungeon, I only went to a guide if I couldn't figure out what the puzzle was. And I want to say it was the second to last dungeon, the sky one, which was the hardest dungeon in the game for me because I'm like, what the hell do I do? You would think I figured it out. And then I don't. And then it's like, okay, maybe I found it. It's like, oh, hey, I'm supposed to go here. Okay, that moves that switch. Now I have to go all the way over there and do this switch. And then turns out, oh, that's not what you're really supposed to do. And I'm just like,
I see the dungeon with the skeleton. What's that? I think the 5th dungeon, right? In Link's Awakening with the skeleton, you got to fight a few times. That one threw me off too.
Oh yeah, that guy. Oh man,
that dungeon's annoying. Ugh.
Yeah, because that skeleton's a mini boss, and then I think it took me a while because you see like these giant like the first room you see him, or one of the rooms you see him, it has like 2 squares into it, but they're diagonal, and you're like, what the heck is that? You go into another room, it's 3, and then 2, and then it took a while for me to click. It's like, oh, that's how many times I have to fight this guy.
Yeah, you got to fight multiple times too.
Yeah, I have to go into each of these rooms. I have to fight him, and once I fight him, it's either the 5th time. That's when he's like Dunzo, and then you get the boss key.
And I think also with me though, man, my short-term memory is not as good as it used to when I was younger. So trying to remember stuff in Zelda game, like I did 5 minutes ago, I'm forget that. So yeah. But good thing is I had one of my good friends who backseat me though, but didn't spoil it though. If I ever got lost, he did help me out. But Link's Awakening, despite limitations of the Game Boy, that game is amazing. Like Nintendo nailed that game. So let me ask questions. Like, what's the difference between the actual original game and actual the remake? If it's called a remake.
The difference that I actually really love, and don't get me wrong, thankfully the Game & Watch that's coming out in November, 2 days before my birthday, funny enough.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, or 3 days. Yeah, my birthday's on November 15th. It comes out November 12th, so hopefully I get that for my birthday. Please. But that has the original Game Boy version of Link's Awakening. And whereas I feel that I might get annoyed with it, because I will freely admit that I am definitely spoiled to the controllers and the more button options for modern games. Whereas because the only version of Link's Awakening I ever played was the Switch remake, and that had an extra button option, because in the original one you only had you can unequip your sword and have like the jump feather. You only had 2 options, whereas this one you have 3. So I definitely feel that when I do play the original Link's Awakening, because of course I'm gonna start a new file when I get my Game & Watch. I'm gonna have to. I have to hit the start button. I have to go unequip it. And I have to go back. It's kind of like when you're in the original when you're in the original Water Temple of Ocarina of Time.
Oh man.
Because when I played Ocarina, I played it on the 3DS. That's the sole reason I bought a 3DS was to play Ocarina. I was dreading the Water Temple. All of my friends who played Ocarina before me would not stop talking shit about the Water Temple.
It's okay. Playing the Water Temple now is not as bad, but it's definitely the weakest dungeon out of the entire Ocarina of Time game. Let's be real, Yeah. And I think in the original 64 version, you had to keep pressing on pause and actually assign items and stuff, right? Yeah.
Well, you had to hit start, and you had to unequip the iron boots over and over and over again. Whereas with the 3DS, you just had to. There was a button for it on the touch screen, and you could unequip it like that, which made you go through the dungeon a lot quicker.
Yeah, because in Water Temple you have to keep going, between different levels and stuff too. It's definitely one of the bigger dungeons in the game, So yeah.
So I mean, I will not lie. When I got to the Water Temple, I used a guide. I did not care.
I don't blame you. Again, like we actually don't have to do a tedious stage. I don't blame you. I'm trying to get through as fast as possible, get to the better stuff. So because usually every game you're gonna deal with is gonna have like one annoying ass stage. It's gonna happen. So yeah.
Like that. Like for me, it was the wall jumping in Super Metroid. That was the one thing where I'm just like, get me out of this goddamn pit. I'm just like sitting there, just seething with anger, I'm even holding the controller with like my index and my right finger, trying to like push it instead of using my thumb, because I'm playing on my SNES Mini here. Thankfully, that is a 100% recreation of the original Super Nintendo controller, which I'm all for. If I'm able to play game. Actually, question for later. So put that pin in that. But if I'm able to play games on original hardware, I would. But that original hardware, the D-pad and the SNES controller, good D-pad, absolutely love it. It hurt my thumb.
Oh yeah.
It hurt my thumb so much. I went to, after I got out of it, I went to a save room. I saved. I even did like the save state on the system itself, and I just went home and I didn't go home. I went to bed, and my thumb was red. I mean, it wasn't bleeding. It was just like a big red spot on the pad of my thumb. And I'm just like, screw you, Super Metroid.
You know, you really take me back to Mario Party 2. Do you remember the one mini game? I'm gonna tell you something for real, seriously. Do you remember the one mini game Mecha Marathon?
Where you had to like,
and like you had to press A and B at the same time? That sucked. I remember doing it as a kid though, man, and like trying to press both buttons, man, and both my actual thumbs hurt. I'm like, really, Nintendo? Really? That sucked.
Did Nintendo get sued on Mario Party because of from the first one, that one where you had to like spin the joystick around and people were using their palms and like the analog, the joystick was digging into people's palms and it was like causing blistering and bleeding.
Yeah, I think so.
About that, or am I forgetting?
Huh, I think so. I know about that story though, but like I don't know if Nintendo got sued because of that though.
Yeah.
But also one thing about me is like the 64 controller, I can't stand it. I hate that controller. Like I detest it with passion.
I mean, okay, I gotta tell you, I am in love with the Super Nintendo controller, but that is only because I have nostalgia goggles on.
You mean the 64 one, right?
Yeah, the N64 one. I love the N64 one, but that's only because I have nostalgia goggles for it. When I was really getting into video games when I was a kid. I mean, yes, the Genesis and the Super Nintendo were around, but I was a kindergartner and I was a preschooler and kindergartner when I would go to my friend's house to play those games. I didn't understand what was going on. I didn't have really a concept of this. All I know is like you have level 1, then you have level 2. Good luck.
Simplicity.
Yeah, exactly. Simplicity. And when the N64 came out and my friends got N64s and eventually I begged my parents for an N64, they got me a PlayStation instead, but I were to get one eventually. But just like seeing the N64 controller just brings back a flood of memories of like, this is awesome.
And like I will say this though, you know, that controller like really paved the way, you know, for 3D style games, you know, stuff like that. It's just the way it looked. It was like, you know, you need 3 arms or some shit like that.
Yeah,
you know? That's my only thing, you know.
I mean, I will not lie. Looking on it now as an adult who can thankfully look at things critically and take the nostalgia goggles off, it is not a well-designed controller. It's not.
Yeah.
But it's still a classic looking controller. Like you show an N64 controller to someone, I can guarantee you, gamer or not, they'll tell you, it's like, hey, I used to play GoldenEye with that thing.
Oh yeah. Like it was definitely revolutionary. I'll give it that though, you know, because I have this controller right here, the Retro Fighters Brawler one. This is the one. Yeah, this is what the controller should have been. This one, this one. What'd you say?
No, I was gonna say I've definitely seen those type of controllers around. Those I would definitely say are really nice, especially when you want to play Smash Bros.
Oh yeah, like I think this is what the controller should have been like, but I definitely will say though, man, you know, for the 64 controller, what it is, it was revolutionary. I'll give it that much though. But the way it feels now, man, I cannot stand it.
I mean, I'm gonna be a shill because once again, I saw the direct that came out a few weeks ago, and they announced N64. They said, "Hey, we're also gonna have N64 controllers that are wireless," and I'm like, "Take my money."
And I'm really glad, you know, they actually made that kind of controller for the Switch because again, I think, you know, with the N64 style controller, it is very unique though. So you kind of do need that though. My only problem is this though, the Sega Genesis one. Like you can buy a retrobit controller for about $15-$20. Why did I pay $50 for that one?
Yeah.
That's my thing.
Well, not only that, because a lot of other people, not a lot of other people, but some people have been talking about the Sega Genesis being branded under Nintendo. The guest I had on the last episode before you, he actually used to work for Sega. And he worked for the Sega hotline down in Nintendo. Hi, Spaceys. How's it going, buddy? So he worked for them down in Australia. And we talked about this a little bit, but at the same time, because I guess some older people, when I say older, I mean like those who were teenagers in the early 90s who were in the thick of the console wars, who were like ride or die, either Sega or Nintendo. And I guess some people are trying to like fan the flames because you know how volatile and vitriolic Twitter can be.
Oh man, understated.
Yeah, I saw. I was actually gonna ask you if you're cool bringing it up because I saw your video about how you got hate rated on Twitter, and if we could talk about that a little later because that I really don't know what that is because I'm still super new to Twitch. But like when people are like, oh well, the console is like this definitely tells you who won the console war, and like some people are like, no, this isn't wrong. How dare you? It's like Sega bowed out years ago.
They had to, man, after the Dreamcast, you know.
They did, and the way I see it is like, yeah, it's a weird timeline. Definitely is. This is like a weird flashpoint timeline we're living in. That Nintendo is making a controller from Sega. That Sega design, their biggest competitor, circa the early 90s.
Yep.
But the way I see it, this just means that you have another way to play those classic games.
Exactly. And in fact, they're playing ball together now, you know. Again, Sonic is in Smash, you know, so you could play Sonic in that game, you know. I do like that. Even as a Sega fan, I do like the fact, you know, we're actually playing, you know, ball together. I love that concept, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just happy that we're able to, I'm just glad that these old Sega games are coming up. But although I really want Sega to come out with like a Sega 32X or a Sega CD collection.
I agree. Yes.
I mean, I get the Genesis is like the Genesis, but you also had some pretty good games on the other ones, or even a Saturn collection, because I would love to play Shining Force 3 without having to sell an arm and a leg.
Oh, man. Or Panzer Dragoon Saga, you know, that one.
Didn't the remake come out? Wasn't there like an HD remake of Panzer Dragoon Saga?
The first one, though.
Yeah, the first one.
Yeah.
Was that any good? Because I think I heard some like mixed things about that one.
I've played it. It's not bad. You know what I'm saying? I think because it does have a modern control scheme in it, so actually more accessible to modern players. It's okay. It's not terrible, but it's not like anything, you know, revolutionary either. You know, if you want to play Panzer Dragoon, but I want to play in a more contemporary setting, with better controls, play the remake. But if you want the old school experience, which is still pretty good, don't get me wrong, you can play the original. So
yeah. I mean, good luck finding one because I remember I saw Sega Saturn at a store that was like going for $500.
Wait, what?
Or okay, maybe not $500. Maybe it was like you know what? It was a Sega Saturn, but it was a Japanese import. It was a Japanese import Sega Saturn, like the white one with like the multicolored buttons on it.
Yeah.
I want to say that one was being sold for maybe 300 something. Yeah, I want to say it was 300. It was still expensive, but still it's like okay. But the games that were there, the seller had Sonic Jam, Shining Force 3, a bunch of like beautiful Sega Saturn titles. Like, oh, these are awesome. Sonic Jam was selling that for $200.
Oh man,
over $200. And
now, was this the actual Japanese version or the US one?
It was the US one, but I think the Japanese one wasn't region locked, so you can play American and Japanese games on it.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, that's the thing you got to ask about when going, because I know when I go to Japan eventually and I'm going to Akihabara, Super Potato, if I see a GameCube, I'm gonna have to make sure to do some research. I'm like, is the GameCube region locked? Because if it's not, sweet, yoink. But if it is, I'm screwed.
Yeah. Because the crazy thing about Japanese Saturns, I was looking on eBay about a couple of days ago. You can find about $80. And it's import though. It's gonna take time to actually get here though, but you can find like really cheap though.
Okay, so it's import.
Huh?
It was imported straight from Japan.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
It's only about $80 because that Saturn's a US one. That was a gift though. One of my supporters actually gifted me that Saturn, and like, I shit you not, man. That's my first ever Sega Saturn. I never owned one.
Yeah, I actually forgot the Saturn existed, to be perfectly honest, because I was alive and I was into video games when the Saturn was a thing. But for me, I thought it was just like Genesis to Dreamcast.
Yeah, I can see that though.
It wasn't Genesis, Saturn, then Dreamcast. And I think I found out about the Saturn a little bit later, but by then the Dreamcast was out. So I'm like, well, I want the Dreamcast because Sonic Adventure's on that one.
Right. What's the point, you know? I knew of the Saturn back then though, but like, when the 32 64-bit actually kicked off, it was mostly PS1 and 64. You know, most of us jumped ship. So, and also I think, you know, the Saturn wasn't like heavily marketed in the US like that, as opposed to Japan, you know. So a lot of us, you know, had those two consoles. I think that's one of the reasons why it's so expensive to actually collect for that system nowadays. It's just not that known out here. So
yeah. And well, thankfully, I feel like the Sega Saturn nowadays is getting a lot more attention because it's like Sega's forgotten console. If you think about it, more so than I wouldn't call the Master System a forgotten console because there's a lot of love for the Master System,
especially in Brazil and in the power regions. Yes.
Oh Lord, yes, that thing is. the Master System is still going on in Brazil, and that boggles my mind. It's like, how is this 30-plus-year-old system still kicking down there?
Man, and it's wild because, like I said, the only thing I think the reason why people actually forget the Master System, because again, in North America, we mostly have the NES. But playing the Master System now, it's a good console, good color, man. Decent games, but again, it's just couldn't compete in North America. Again, Nintendo had their, their fangs in us. So
they did. I mean, they brought the video game market back from the dead after the crash, so it kind of makes sense that, like, what did our parents call video games back in the late 80s, early 90s? They call it Nintendo. I had to make sure. I remember like writing on my Christmas list and my birthday wishes and my birthday list. I had to make sure I wrote down what the console was, what game or what console the game I wanted was.
Yep.
I had to write. It's like this game for the PlayStation 2. It's like this game for the Game Boy Advance. I underline it's like PS2, GBA, Game Boy Advance, and then. Thankfully, my parents never like got me a game for. They didn't get me like a game for the Xbox because I never owned an Xbox until the 360. But luckily, my parents were like, okay, they have the PS2, they have the Game Boys, we know what to get them.
Right. But like looking back to Saturn though, like there's just so many good fighting games and shoot 'em ups on there, man. Whew, man. Because I was playing Dodonpachi I think on Wednesday and Raiden Silvergun, man. I love shoot 'em ups, but I suck at them. But playing like the shoot 'em ups on there, I'm trash shoot 'em ups, man. I'm trash at them. But like I love them though. They're just so addicting. But looking at the Saturn though, it's just man, if it had a bit more marketing in North America, it actually would have competed pretty well. But looking at it now, man.
Yeah, it probably would have because, I mean, once again, Sega was still trying to really fight for Nintendo because at the time, Sega was like, hey, let's have all these little peripherals. Let's have the 32X, the CD. Whereas Nintendo just said, let's have better software. And that's what's eventually beat Sega into the ground. It was, I mean, yes, the infighting hurt, but then you have Nintendo being like, if you want to play our entire library of Nintendo games, or at least 98% of our library, all you need is a Super Nintendo and a controller.
Simple.
That's it.
Then on top of that, the third wheel, the PlayStation. When the PS1 came out, man, they had a lot to prove, but they proved a lot, man. Because you got to think, Sony's mostly making, TVs and cameras and stuff, right? They weren't like really known. Yeah. So going against two big titans, back in the 90s, you had to stand your ground. So yeah.
But Sony, even after the debacle of the PS3 or the debacle of the launch of the PS3, they're still top dog, I would say. I mean, even in this generation between the PS5 and the Xbox One, the only one I think is kind of giving them a run for their money is the Switch. But I feel the Switch is an entirely in its own different category because it's an at-home console and it's an on-the-go system.
Yeah.
Whereas the PS5 is just an at-home console. You can't take that thing on the go.
Or the Xbox Series, right?
Or the Xbox Series, yeah.
And you also got to think as well, Nintendo's been in the game for what? Years, decades. You know what I'm saying? So they always going to have that fan base. It's always going to be a love for Mario, a love for Zelda, a love for Smash, love for Animal Crossing. So Nintendo ain't going nowhere. They're going to make their money,
Yeah, so we talked about which era is the best, and we've gone on a whole lot of tangents, but of course, that's what the show is about. Tangents and rants are absolutely welcome. So we talked about the 16-bit era, and I completely agree. 16-bit, if you want to get someone else, if a friend of yours, family member, like your niece or your nephew, whomever, wants to get a video game, point them to the 16-bit era. But what games would you say that should be introduced them first? Like, what games do you think that you should sit these people down? It's like, here, try playing this.
Now it all depends what your tastes are, because that could be another thing. But if you actually want like a first taste of what those games are, Mario and Sonic, you got to go with those, And I would say Super Mario World is definitely the good starting point because it's an easy platformer, lots of personality, lots of power ups. If you're a Nintendo fan, Sega, I would say Sonic 2.
Yeah,
people would say Sonic 3 though. But Sonic 3 is a little bit more advanced. You got a lot more to go with. You also need 2 Kart 2 for that. But if you actually don't want, a straight Sonic game to get into, the second game is my number one thing of all time. Love me some Sonic 2. That's a good starting point. Also, I would say Link to the Past is definitely a top banger too. Link to the Past is wonderful. For Sega, because you got to think a lot more beat 'em ups, a lot more action-based games, Streets of Rage 2. You can play it with a buddy and still have a ton of fun. For real. Trying to think what else would be good. So I would also say Golden Axe would be a good one.
Yeah, that's
Shinobi,
a good. I would say Golden Axe and along with Streets of Rage would be really good because Golden Axe, of course, it's a co-op beat 'em up. You can just go around and just like beat up these bad guys, and you got like a urban setting or you have a fantasy setting. It's like, hey, which do you prefer? And then you go with the one your friend picks.
Now going back to Nintendo. Now this might be a little more difficult game, but I still think it's a great co-op. Donkey Kong Country.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now it's difficult, don't get me wrong, but I think if it's two people playing, y'all cut one another out. Preferably the second one. DKC2 is my favorite one, Okay. Because one thing about the Super Nintendo to me personally, it has great, wonderful games, But if I'm talking about like 2-player, you know what I'm saying? I think Genesis takes it in that regard, though. Because you have beat 'em ups mostly. Even some platformers like Gunstar Heroes. That's another good game too, But if you actually want like Nintendo's best, again, Super Mario World, Mario RPG, Link to the Past, Donkey Kong Country. There's just so many games that Super Nintendo has. Man, where do I even start? Turtles in Time.
Yeah. You know what? Because I was actually watching. So I just found this YouTuber who goes by Retrobird on obviously on YouTube.
I know him. Man,
you know him? Oh,
such a good content creator, man.
No, because I was watching some of his videos before I came up here to record with you, and I'm like, hey, these are actually. Because he had a list on like which games should you introduce someone to retro, and of course the first game he mentioned was Super Mario World. I feel the second you say 16-bit video games, even as a diehard Sonic fan, the first game that comes up in my brain is Super Mario World. I feel like that game is just too. I mean this in the nicest way possible. It's too iconic.
It is.
Cannot escape Super Mario World. Like I feel. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And you also think as well, when Mario Brothers 3 came out, that game pushed the boundaries of the NES. So actually, making something better than Mario 3, I won't say better, but just as good, man, Mario World definitely, it shined.
It did. It 100% did. So obviously, if someone came up to me and said, hey, I want to play retro video games, where should I start? I'm going to say, well, obviously, I'm like, hey, what's your taste? Do you like fighters, beat 'em ups? What kind of things do you like? But now also going away from that, say they like the 16-bit area and they say we showed them all these games, Sonic, Mario, Streets of Rage, Link to the Past, and they go, hey, this is cool. What else you got? Where do you go from there?
Okay, I'm glad you brought this up, man.
Where do you go from there? Where do you go after 16? Do you go forward or do you go backward? Because I actually have an idea that I will try.
I would say go. That's a hard one because you have 32-bit, 64-bit, but at the same time those games are they're hit or miss because of the third dimension and whatnot. NES would be a good one, but again, a challenge could be a thing too. But however, those quality games on there: Mario Brothers 3, Mega Man 2, Mega Man 3, Kid Icarus, Ninja Gaiden, Castlevania, like Contra. Great games, but they can be a little bit too hard for that, for the casual, person.
There's no way in hell I would give someone Contra and be like, hey, play this as your first game. Hell, and that's giving someone Contra and not telling them about the Konami code. To me, that's like a one-way ticket to be like, nope.
No, exactly. Now I would say the Konami code. You have to know that's like tradition right there, But in terms of actual gaming quality, once you got you used to playing 16-bit games and you actually want to know games that came out before that, I'll say try those games. But again, good thing is in 2021, save states are a thing. So if you get your ass kicked, you can't save state. So you don't have to play, how it was back in the day. If you die, go back to the beginning. So it's gonna be hard, but you can at least get into it and actually eventually beat it though. Master System. You got Sonic Chaos, you got Shinobi, you got Golden Axe Warrior. You got a lot of different games in the Master System, a ton of them, man.
Yeah. So the way I would see it is if let's just say, for example, my nephew, he loves playing video games, and he's asked me, he's like, hey, what are some older games do you like? I show him the 16-bit games. He absolutely adores them, and then he asks me where to go. I would not go forward. I would not go to the PlayStation to the N64, mostly because those games, as much as I love them, as much as they will always have a special place in my heart, as much as I can still play them to this day, they did not age well, and they do not look the best.
Exactly.
So, because when you go from like a 16-bit to a polygonal game, like even looking at, as much as I love Final Fantasy VII. The original Final Fantasy VII, to me, is absolutely gorgeous. It's not my favorite, but I still love a game. It deserves its place in the annals of video game history. It's hard to look at.
It is. Oh
Even
man.
even with my, because I also have a PlayStation Classic, and when I first got that, my brother, he had it, he didn't want it, so he gave it to me. I plugged it in, and I'm like, okay, damn, this game looks hard. Is hard to look at.
Because the funny thing about that too is a little bit off topic though. I actually played Final Fantasy 7 for the first time last month. It's
Really?
amazing. Yes, I've never played Final Fantasy because I'm not the biggest JRPG kind of guy. They're not actually my least favorite genre, but I wanted to give it a shot. And oh my goodness. However, there were some parts when I actually had to navigate between the actual game. I'm like, where do I go? Because everything like looked kind of the same. It's like kind of like a flat surface. I'm like, how do I get to this next part? So that did kind of throw me off a little bit though. But luckily, I had my chat there who actually helped me get through the game though. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember, because Final Fantasy VII was not the first Final Fantasy game I played. That belongs to 10, and I only picked that game up because I'm a huge Kingdom Hearts fan. I love Kingdom Hearts, and that is the game that got me into Final Fantasy. Because I didn't see myself as a big JRPG guy when I was a kid, even though I absolutely love that game right there.
Yo, we gonna be friends, man. Gen 2, I love Gold and Silver. Love it, love it, love it.
I will die on the hill that Generation 2, that those games and those games and their remakes are the best Pokemon games ever made.
Now, what about Gen 3 though? Omega Red, Alpha Sapphire. What about those?
Good game. Gold and Silver still better.
Okay. Now I do like about with Gen 3 remakes, Omega Evolution from Gen 6, X and Y. Awesome. I did like that. But like I said, I'm a big Gen 2 fan just like you, man. So I definitely say because of what Heart Gold and Soul Silver brought to the table, it's my favorite though. But Gen 3 remake is just as good though. And Gen 5 Black and White is amazing too.
I'm not the biggest fan of Black and White. I haven't played Black and White. I wasn't really a big fan of the starters, and I kind of just like let that one go by the wayside. But then, of course, when X and Y came out, it's weird. I went from I don't like Pokemon to I love Pokemon to I'm like kind of on Pokemon to I'm like I'm all in.
And I think for a lot of us too, man, like for myself specifically, I played Gens 1 and 2 growing up, and I thought, Pokemon with me, man, was just, more my childhood though, you got to think there are other games that came out, especially RPGs, like Final Fantasy specifically. So like between Gens 3, 4, and 5, oh wow, okay, Game Boy Pocket.
My original Game Boy Pocket, I've had this since 1998.
Wow.
And inside it, my original.
Man, that is dope. Man, I've been seeing that so long.
I feel like there should be like a little dinger, and fans of the show should be like, okay, take a shot whenever Ben mentions, because I show this off as much as I can. I show this off to my friends or to my co-hosts. It's like yeah, I have this. I'm like, oh yeah, I still have my original red version. I have my original my original brothers, because obviously he's my original brother.
You're good.
I have my brother's original blue version as well. I'm holding it for him. But yeah, this is my OG red version.
You know what's funny about that, man? Because like that was actually my first Game Boy. It was actually a green Game Boy Pocket. It had Mortal Kombat 3 in it. Yeah, small world, ain't it?
Yeah, small world.
Yeah, that's actually my first exposure to the Game Boy, because I didn't have a DMG-01 model, dude, like the big brick. I never had that one. No,
I never had my cousin had one. I played Super Mario Land on it because he came over for a family gathering, and I saw him like, what's that? It's like he's like, it's a Game Boy. And now looking back on it, he was like, I want to say 15, 16 years old. And here I am, just tiny little like 3 or 4 or 5-year-old me. He's like, what's that? Video games? Can I play? And he's like, yeah, sure, here you go. And I'm like, I'm playing, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but I think I'm Mario.
Man, it's looking back at the original Game Boy, man. Like that thing, really set a standard. Like it lasted throughout the entire 90s and a little bit of 2000s. Like it kicked the asses of the Turbo Express, the Game Gear, the Atari Lynx. Like the original Game Boy, man, it was little though, man, and that screen was shit though, man. But man, that thing's to the legacy.
I mean, as much as I love the Game Boy, I would always say that those older Game Boys, like looking at, because I've been spoiled by my 101, my Game Boy Advance XP 101. Oh yeah, I got this reshell to look like a Super Famicom.
Yo, that's dope.
It's so freaking awesome. Look at that.
Yo, that is, because I remember they actually released an NES one too, right?
Yeah, the NES one was an official one, and then I know a guy who was able to reshell it to an NES or a SNES, and I'm like, I want the Super Famicom because I really like the color scheme. I like how it's even the buttons are different colors, like on the Super Famicom controller. But that's beside the point. The point is this GBA, the GBA SP, the best Game Boy ever made. Plays every single Game Boy cartridge ever made. I mean, it might stick out a little bit, but you know what? That's fine. The backlit screen was a lifesaver.
It was. Oh man. And now give the SP that much credit though, because like I like the original Game Boy Advance, the long model, a little bit more. But again,
it does feel. Sorry.
Because the things with SP, I like it because of the backlit screen, but my hands are freaking huge, so it kind of felt kind of cramped though. But I will say having the backlit screen was actually a godsend because you got to think the original Game Boy didn't have one, the Pocket, the Color, or the original Advance didn't have one. But having that backlit screen, it actually became a standard, to the DS and the 3DS. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, also, it kind of also brings a point to how well Nintendo, A, was known, but B, I mean, yeah, the Game Gear and the Lynx, full color, backlit screens. The Game Boy it looks bad. Like, as much as I could play Super Mario Land now, it looks like shit. It does not look good.
It does.
It looks god awful.
It does.
Down the line, it starts to look a little bit better, but that first GBA game outside of Tetris looks awful.
It does. Oh, you're not wrong, man. I agree.
But the game is still so fun.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and also the fact that you only need 4 AA's for the brick, and that thing lasted you hours.
Yes.
I remember I went to visit some family friends over in Southeast Asia. They were living in Singapore at the time. And we had a flight from LAX to South Korea, which was like a 17-hour flight, the longest plane ride I've ever been on in my entire life up at that point.
Ooh.
And of course, my parents made sure they put brand new batteries in our Game Boys. They wanted us to sleep most of the way, but if we didn't sleep, we would bust out the Game Boys. And I want to say it was like halfway through our trip when we needed to switch the batteries out.
Mm-hmm.
That thing lasted so long, even with my Pocket, because the Game Boy Pocket only took 2 AA's, and it still lasted forever.
Mm-hmm. But the Game Gear, man, took 6, man. It lasted, 4 hours of that?
I had a Game Gear. I bought it secondhand at a store that sadly is no longer around, and unfortunately, neither is that Game Gear. But it was like when I first got it, and I thought, oh, this is a portable Sega. This is the coolest thing ever. And then my parents saw how many batteries it needed, and they were like, I don't know, Ben. I don't think that's a good idea. And of course, they bought it for me anyway. They bought me the batteries, and 4 hours later, or not even like a cumulative of 4 hours, I'm like playing, and all of a sudden I'm like going and trying to find new AA's, and my parents are like, what's going on? It's like, my Game Gear died, and they're like, already?
You got to think, man, back then, though, it's actually a little bit harder to come across, batteries because your parents to buy them. Nowadays you actually, you can do mods and stuff like that. But back in the day, batteries all you had. So,
Also, you have the glory of rechargeable batteries. That's the instead of trying to put new batteries in the system, it's like you charge them up the night before. Because I still, to this day, I still do that. I charge up my 3DS. I charge up my SP if I'm taking it with me on a trip. I make sure that sucker is fully charged up and then ready to go the next morning.
Yep. And the good thing is when the Game Boy Advance came out, though, man, it only took 2 AAA batteries. It still lasted, a long time, though,
Oh, yeah.
And you can mod those with a USB-C kind of, you can install a battery into it. It's actually a dope idea right there. So you could do that. But back then, that's all you have batteries.
Yeah, but also you can mod the Game Boy Advances, though, the original ones with the longer screen, because I will admit the original model is a lot more comfortable. As much as I love this, when I was playing Metroid Fusion and Zero Mission on this, there are times where I was trying to do like the charge speed run, and you have to like jump and do it at a specific angle. Well, look how big my thumb is compared to the So there were times I'm trying to push left, but of course my thumb would also register the top, so I'm going diagonally. I did not mean to do that, and it also messed up some of my jumps. I didn't die, but it messed up a few of my jumps. I had to start the whole process all over again, and it was already a really tricky way to go from like 1 to it was precision. It was precision jumping, which I like precision jumping. That it makes it like, yes, I'm learning. I'm getting really good at this game. But at the same time, it makes me so mad because especially when I'm trying to go one way and my thumb decides to go that way.
Right. Again, our hands are freaking huge. So it's like, it makes it even more difficult, to actually do the jump. So yeah. So going back to my original thought of like, instead of going forward of how games look so like if my nephew comes up to me and says, hey, I like this, I will show said nephew the NES. I think the NES is good, but I'm not going to throw him to the wolves of like Contra or even Mega Man.
I will definitely start off with Super Mario Bros. Probably Super Mario Bros. 3.
Oh yeah.
Because obviously if my nephew likes platformers, he's definitely gonna love Mario Bros. 3. And then I would still gauge and see how he likes it. Because if say he likes Mario Bros. 3 and I show him the original one, but he doesn't like Super Mario Bros. 1, I don't know, could it be too hard or he just doesn't like the way it looks, then it's like, okay, we know where to stop and I'll show him other games. And then if he's still into it, then I'm like, okay, we'll go forward with the PlayStation and N64, but be warned, it doesn't look as good because this was way back in the 90s.
Early 3D days, so yeah.
Yeah. But I think a really good way to get them into those games, if I have them and if they ever become available, is the Game Boy Advance games.
Oh man, yes.
So, because I was watching another video on YouTube, and they're like, "Hey, there's no original Mario game or Mario platformer game for the Game Boy Advance."
So is it?
Yeah, it's all, yeah, because the Super Mario Advance titles are all ports of NES and Super Nintendo games.
Yep.
So I feel like a good way to like say, hey, maybe try maybe Yoshi. Like, say I don't have my Super Nintendo handy, my SNES Classic with Yoshi's Island. I'll be like, hey, here's Yoshi's Island, or hey, here's Super Mario Bros. 3, here's Super Mario Bros. 3 for the Game Boy Advance. Try this. It looks a little better. It looks a little cleaner. And try and see if you like that. If you do, cool.
And it's portable too. So again, he just had the actual monitor, or TV and actually play. He could just have it in his hand. So
yeah. So I feel also I'll try to do like, I definitely won't show. I mean, if of course they show, hey, I do like retro games. They come up to me like, teach me, sir. I want to know the ways. Then I'll show them. I'll ask them what they think about first. I will only go to the days of Atari if they ask.
Right, because that's one area you do not want to go back to. I don't even do it.
I mean, okay, so I have a bunch of Atari games, right? This isn't all my Atari games, because I did a few weeks ago. I actually I got lucky enough to interview Howard Scott Warshaw, the man who created this.
Oh man, I'm glad you brought that up because that's actually community challenge we'll do down the road. E.T.
Yeah. So I have all these games. I have E.T., I have Raiders of the Lost Ark, Yar's Revenge. I actually have CIB. It's just over there. I don't want to get it right now. And of course, I have the Atari version of Space Invaders, which I would say is an absolute classic, especially now because I watched the documentary High Score, and I saw how Becky Heinemann is technically the first video game championship after she won playing Space Invaders. And I'm like, that's an interesting piece of history. I want a copy of that. But I have these games because I want to hold on to them and preserve them. I don't plan to sell them off. I want to hold these. If I ever get a Atari 2600 or a clone system, I may plug it in just to show people what they looked like and then never touch them again.
Right. Because again, that's like primitive days, like, the Stone Age of gaming, or the Wood Age, I should say.
I call it the Primordial Age. I call it, you had the Primordial Age, First Age, and Second Age of Retro. And now that I guess the community is accepting that the PS3 is retro now, we're now starting in the Third Age.
Makes sense, yeah.
I mean, that's what I call it. So, I mean, that's why I call it. I'm also trying to write a book about it too.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So before you go, there was one thing I want to talk about besides retro video games that you brought up, and I feel like we should talk about it because I am, like I said earlier, I am new to Twitch. I do have a Twitch. I'm unfortunately hardly ever on it. My work schedule sucks. The only time I could really be on it is on Saturdays, and if I'm not recording shows like this, I'm doing something completely different.
Makes sense.
So you put up a video about how your Twitch channel was hate rated.
Okay.
And to those, and I apologize for bringing the tone down. If you don't want to talk about it, just let me know.
Let's talk about it.
So for those of you for those of us who do not know what a hate raid is, can you please explain as to what exactly it is and how it affects the streamer? Because I have an idea. I mean, the words hate and raid on it, so I can only assume bad things are going on, but I don't know. So please explain if you want,
All
what
right,
exactly that is.
here's what a hate rate is. So it's actually someone making a bunch of bot accounts where actually, a bunch of hateful rhetoric, and me being a person of color, being a black man, I've had, a bunch of bot accounts saying, kill all N-words or, hang all N-words and stuff like that. I shit you not. Yes, that's what it is. And like, it's mostly targeted, towards, people of color or those of the LGBTQIA community, and a lot of my, fellow, people of color, and one of my good friends who's part of the LGBTQ community has got, saying, kill all F words, all that stuff. So it's a bunch of bot accounts with a bunch of hateful messages. And it really made me feel, some kind of way. Cause like, as a content creator, man, as a black content creator, I should feel safe. And I didn't, and unluckily, one of my good friends, Record Raven, started the Twitch Do Better movement, actually, to challenge Twitch to actually may, have issues, actually, incorporate change on Twitch to make, people of color content creators and, LGBTQ content creators to actually feel safe. To hold Twitch accountable for these things. So that's what it is. Okay. I've got hit about a good 10, 15 times within the past month.
Because I remember watching the video you posted on Twitter about how you got hit all these times, and that still boggles my. I mean, okay, it doesn't really boggle my mind getting to what the country we live in, and B, the rhetoric that's been going on, especially in the past few years, once a certain someone was elected president of the United States.
Yeah.
And I try not to be political on the show because this is a place where I want this show to be a safe space for gamers of all people to come in and just talk about video games.
Right.
I mean, I can only imagine that somewhere down the line, politics will creep its head because I want to talk about, say, the congressional hearings of the mid '90s with when the ESRB was formed.
Yep.
Or what China passed a few weeks ago when China put in a law saying you could only play video games for 3 hours on the weekend.
Wow, I've heard something about that too. I've heard about.
Yeah, that's a thing, and part of me is like, oh, I'm glad to live where I do now.
Exactly.
But hearing stuff like that, where people make these bots, it just sickens my stomach. Because, like you said, you are a black man and you are here to play video games and create content. Which, hell yes, do it. So what can people do to make this better?
I would say, just know the fact it exists, and don't be afraid, to call people out. I'm not saying just Twitch though, man, but those out there, man, who think, that it's okay, for people of, of color and, people of the LGBTQ community, I'm saying I'm trying to find the right word, to not feel victimized, like we go through a lot of stuff a lot. And there's people out there saying, okay, if you hate it, move to another platform. Okay, let's say if I move to YouTube. Like I said, that's gonna follow me too. Yeah. I'm not gonna feel safe anywhere. So again, call out Twitch, call out people, who actually say things like that and hold them accountable. This is not right. Regardless of what color you are, though, man, you should feel safe when it comes to streaming, all that stuff. You should feel safe regardless. So yeah, just call people out, man, and just just know the fact this exists. It is a thing. It's happened to me many times.
Yeah,
yeah.
Like I said, I rarely ever stream. I think the highest amount of viewers I ever had was like maybe 3. And of course, my streaming setup isn't. I'm recording this through my laptop. I do have a PC, but it's nowhere near the specs I want to stream video games. And the only way I stream now is through my PlayStation 4. When I get my PS5, then sweet upgrade. But until that happens, I don't really have I don't have the audience. So, but to hear someone like you who does have the audience that is going through this, my heart goes out to you, man. I am so sorry.
I appreciate it.
That freaking sucks.
And like I said, as of right now, the hate rates have actually died down. But there's another issue. For those who know who I am, I'm a military veteran. I served 4 years in the United States Army, and I've actually had certain accounts that say your veteran friend died or something like that. So it's actually veteran bot accounts that actually target former United States servicemen, and that it actually happened to me on Friday. So if it's one issue, being, shut down, another one arises. So just know the fact, these things exist though. And don't turn a blind eye because they do happen.
Well, first of all, thank you for your service. And second of all, I feel for you because I have a family member. Actually, I have multiple family members who have served in the United States military. So I completely get that because that part really freaking sucks.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah,
but it happens though. A lot of disgusting stuff that happens on Twitch, though, even on Twitter though. But especially on Twitch though, man, a lot of people do get attacked on a regular. So yeah.
Because I'm mostly on Twitter. Because luckily, when I'm at work or when I'm at home, I'm able to check Twitter really quickly, or I'm on my break at work, I'm able to scroll through Twitter. Whereas Twitch, especially because a lot of the people whom I do follow on Twitch, they're either streaming while I'm at work or they're streaming right before I go to bed. So it's hard for me to watch this stuff. So I'm not privy to this. I'm only privy to this like when you or other creators say, hey, I got hate rated on Twitch today. I'm like, what is a hate raid? So thank you for telling me what that is and educating us. And yeah, just what you said, call people out when they're doing stupid shit.
Yeah, and like I said, because there are things on Twitter, though, man. People do say, though, man, that's just off the wall. You know, I've seen people say, if you hate, to climb to Twitch, move somewhere else. That's not going to change the issue. It's going to still be there.
Yeah, because if you just like go from one platform to another, what's to stop the trolls from going to that other platform and be like, and continuing what they're doing?
And and just having Twitch being complacent on the matter, though, man, like not protecting their creators, that's an issue right there in itself. So yeah.
So let's try to move to a little happier notes. But I did want to talk about it. I did want to because I feel that with you and with other creators that should be addressed. And even though I'm a small platform, it's like, hey, we gotta be better when we're watching creators we like. So what I had a question. Okay, so we obviously talked about trying to get into like retro game collecting and trying to get in and getting other people into retro game collecting. When you want to get a new system, what's the criteria when you're like, okay, this is a system I want to collect for, and how do you go? Do you like plan for it, or do you just like out of the blues, you're at a store, go, I don't have that yet. Yeah, I got enough money. I think I'll pick that up.
It's also on rarity, process elimination, because I do want a PC Engine or a TG16, but those are somewhat rare to come across. They're a little bit pricey, especially on eBay. So I think to myself, okay, how much does it cost? Is it reasonable? Does it come with all the pieces? Because one thing I don't want to do is actually get a console and have to pay for more stuff. Does it come with everything? Can I get it? Can I get the games for it? Now I am using EverDrives with certain consoles because I do have a Genesis one, a N64 one, and Game Boy one. So if I do decide to get a PC Engine, I'm probably going to EverDrive because some of those games are pricey to get. But it's really about price. Can you get the games for it, availability, budget, stuff like that. So and also you got to think to yourself, okay, what kind of console do you want? Now, if it's like a Sega Genesis or a Super Nintendo, you can find those anywhere. Those are pretty common though. Game collecting for those isn't too bad. But if you want something like a 3DO or Sega Saturn, expect to pay a lot of money.
Now that's a console I have not heard. I feel like oh god, what's the movie where it's like Star Wars Obi-Wan, where it's like 3DO. That's a name I've not heard in a long time.
I mean, cause it's a more obscure system. So, like I say, if you're trying to collect for that, you're gonna pay a lot more as opposed to collect for a NES.
Yeah,
I'm saying because there's more games out there to meet the demand. And you're still gonna deal with scalpers. It's gonna happen though. But at least you're more likely to collect for something like an NES as opposed to like something like what's like a very obscure console, like super obscure. Again, 3DO, Saturn's obscure.
I would say, okay, it's maybe not obscure, but I would definitely say it's well known because of its infamy. The Philips CDI. Okay,
yeah. Okay, but if you're trying to collect for that again, you're gonna pay a lot more because again, not too people had those. It's a little less known to some more mainstream. Like a Genesis, you can find it for about $30-$40. Yeah. Easy. Even a PS1 you can find really cheap though, And again, even for like most libraries, they're still easy to collect for. Like you can find Sonic 1 for about $7. You know what I'm saying? But if you're trying to find like Monk's Adventure, you can pay a little bit more, about $40-$50 for that game, despite being the main mascot of the TG16. So yeah.
Yeah. Shoot, I had something in my brain. Oh, okay. So I did. Thank God I remembered it. What's your opinion about when the Nintendo Switch online service? There's criticisms about the online service, about how Nintendo doesn't really do online well. But one thing I absolutely love about this service are the older consoles, like the NES and the Super Nintendo, and now eventually the N64. What are your thoughts on these things? Because my whole thing about this is that originally, by the end of this year, it was my goal to re-buy an N64. I had an N64. It's unfortunately got lost to time along with my entire game collection. But a lot of the games that I had and I really want to rebuy, which are now super expensive, are going to be on that system or are going to be on the Switch when it eventually comes out. So what's your opinion? Do you still want to get the console if the console's readily available and the games are there? Or do you still just want to have the physical copy?
Now I'm a little bit off topic though. That 64 right there is my childhood one.
Nice.
I still have it. Yes. My mom actually said it to me I think she said to me early 2021. She still had it. So yeah. My thing about that is that I do some original hardware, but I also do emulation as well, you know. But I know for some people out there who don't want to deal with all that, the Switch Online service is great. Again, it's pretty cheap though. You actually get some of the best games, you know. I do wish, honestly, man, we had the virtual console. I do miss that.
Yeah.
I miss it so much. But hey, you know, take what we can get. If you actually don't want to collect for stuff, the online service is a good thing. It's definitely good. You know, you're paying about $20 for a year. You actually access all the games you want, classic games, and online too. That's a deal right there. That's definitely a deal. Now retro stuff I do like to collect for, because again, I am a retro collector. I'm also a retro enthusiast, you know, so I actually don't want to, keep that thing going. However, if there are times where if I actually don't want to play, online with someone with the Switch and my, you can do online with original hardware nowadays. It's kind of hard, So I think the Switch Online service is actually a good alternative. It's a great way, So yeah.
Yeah, I think that when the N64 was announced for that last Direct, to me it was like, cool, I can wait. If I don't get my N64 this year, that's fine. I still want to have an N64 because, of course, a lot of the games that I had are not going to be on this system. But once again, those games, even though they're easy to find, they're still not the cheapest games. Like Pokemon Stadium is the reason why I wanted an N64 in the first place. That's pretty pricey. Pokemon Stadium 2, very expensive. But luckily, with games like Mario Kart 64, with games I never owned, Yoshi's Story, Kirby and the Crystal Shards, Banjo-Kazooie, even. Those are coming to the Switch, or on the N64 for the Switch. The way I see it, now I have a way to play this. It's going to work on my HD TV, and also going way back to the beginning of the conversation, I don't have to worry about space.
Exactly.
Because don't get me wrong, I want the green N64. You remember the Fantastic ones where they had the color ones? Yeah. I really want green's my favorite color. I want that green one with the original green controller. But once again, these consoles are getting older, and those parts are not working as well as they probably should. So now with I might not be able to play all the games I wanted, but like you said, emulation is an option. But at least I have I'm more of a fan of having things legally, because also I know it's gonna work, and it's gonna be there. So to me it is a double-edged sword, but at the same time it's like greatest hits. Like, hey, if you're interested in playing these old games, you can play these old games. You're good.
And like you're also getting some the most known titles as well. You gotta think there isn't a soul who doesn't love Mario 64 and Ocarina of Time, and Star Fox. So you're at least getting a good sampling, so to speak. So yeah, I think the online service, to me personally, if you don't want to get into retro collecting, which I understand, it's not for everybody, but if you still want to play those games with ease of access and online capabilities, the online service, go for it. I recommend it.
Also for the N64, if I remember correctly, online services, like you can play your friends online with that app, because with the NES and Super Nintendo, there's no online thing, which I want to say is why it's a little bit more expensive, because once it does launch, it's a new tier. But like you said, it's only $20 for an entire year. That is $40 cheaper than compared to Sony and Microsoft.
Yep. I was just going to say that too.
Those are both $60. I am so fine. I am so like, and even when I'm doing a family plan, because I have a family plan, because my girlfriend plays Animal Crossing on the Switch, and she goes to her friends' islands. So in order for her to do that, I needed it's either get one plan, which is family one, and that's already $35 for an entire year for 2 people.
That's a deal right there.
Yeah, it's seriously. Like, oh, I only have to pay $15 more on something that's already under 60. Sure, I don't have to worry about it.
Like that, and that's a great thing, because again, people don't want maybe some people don't want to actually collect for stuff. Some people want to just play, on modern consoles, which I can't really blame them for. So yeah.
Yeah, I can. I mean, although I love what Xbox is doing with the Game Pass and how backwards compatible those systems are, which is good. But I'm not a really huge fan of Xbox outside of Halo. I love the Halo games. I play co-op with them with one of my best friends. They're super fun. Yeah. But I kind of wish Sony was a little bit better about it with their console, with their older games.
Like, because when the PS4 came out, though, man, that was a step down. Because when the first model PS3s came out, you could play PS1, PS2, and PS3. But when PS4 came out, they only had PS2 games. It was only like a small selection anyway. So it was a step going downwards, So,
I mean, don't get me wrong. PS4, I absolutely adore that console. The games are fantastic. And thankfully, the new PS3 I have, which is down there, can still play my PS1 games. that's I can at least I have a machine that can play my PS1 games. I just wish I had some. I mean, as much as I want to play my PS2 games, a lot of the PS2 games I will go back to and play. They actually got HD remakes for the PS4. Shadow of the Colossus, the Kingdom Hearts series, Final Fantasy 12, Final Fantasy 10, all got HD remasters and are on the PS4. So it's like half my library is on the PS4 now. So I don't need to play my PS2 anytime soon.
Now, I will say this, though. If you actually want to experience and want some of these best consoles, the PS2 is the way to go.
Oh, again,
man.
Man, I mean, bro, that is like absolutely no contest. To me, my favorite console of all time has to be the PS2 because of what it did for not just video games, but also to say what it did for video games, it brought games into obviously a new dimension. But of course, for a lot of families, it's like it could play DVDs when DVD players were, stupid expensive.
Yep.
But at the same time, that massive library had something for everyone. You can probably find someone who says, I hate video games. Video games are not my thing. I can guarantee you, if you look in the entirety of the PlayStation 2 library, they could find a game that they might really like.
Oh yeah, good. Like I said, God of War, Jack and Daxter, Sly Cooper. Oh man, even like some good fight games like Tekken 3, 4, Tekken Tag, Tekken 4, Tekken 5. Oh yeah. And the good thing is with PS2 stuff, it's still pretty cheap to collect for. Honestly.
I mean, there will be some like higher level or games that are rare and hard to find.
God hand.
Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
Yeah, that one.
Which I had. Keyword there being had.
Because that game is freaking pricey. Damn. Whew, man.
Not only is that game pricey, so I still have my original PS2 model, but here's the thing. That's a older model, like older model. Like it was it was either first or second generation when the PS2 was coming out. So Marvel vs. Capcom 2 was what my family called a blue disc, because when you take the game out, instead of it being a nice shiny DVD-ROM, it was a compact disc and it looked blue. My PS2 could not read, it could, but it very rarely was able to read those games.
That's how it was for me for Tekken Tag Tournament, because it's the same blue disc. And yeah, it's hard to actually get that game to run at times. It's annoying. Yeah.
No, it absolutely drove me up a wall, because sometimes it would work, sometimes it wouldn't. And I had like 3 games. We got like a bunch of GunCon games too, like Time Crisis 3. Well, no, that was a DVD-ROM. That was fine. Time Crisis 2, Vampire Knight, Ninja Assault, all 3 of them were blue discs.
Yep.
And I think I remember when we found out how to tell the difference, when we would go to stores and we would we had to teach our parents when they were shopping for games for us. Yeah. And if, like, say for a birthday or Christmas, a game we wanted they couldn't get, they would tell us, it's like, oh, it's because it was a blue disc. Because we were just so over the fact that the blue discs that we had would not run.
They were kind of spotty. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, if you got a PlayStation Slim and newer models of the PS2, they would run no problems. You'd be fine. But unfortunately, we weren't. Once we got like that system, that was it. The only time we really upgraded was for Game Boys, and that's because they were a lot cheaper.
Exactly.
And my brother was able to convince me to pull our money together for each of us to get a Game Boy Advance SP.
Okay. But those blue discs are annoying. Truck. I was actually playing Tekken Tag Tournament about a few weeks ago, and like sometimes it'll run, sometimes it'll freeze. I'm like, really? Seriously? So yeah.
I mean, it really got me mad in Marvel vs. Capcom 2 because I actually unlocked Mega Man. Because when you first get the roster, Mega Man's not. He's unlockable. But when I finally unlocked him and I was able to get my my full team, which is Mega Man, Wolverine, and Spider-Man, those are my mains. And I was blazing through the game. I was having a blast. And then one day it just won't load. And I would try to do the thing. I would take it out. I'd be like, inside the system, and like put it back in, wouldn't load. Keep trying. And eventually I just gave up.
I don't blame you. Again, let's say if you want to try to buy another one nowadays, again, you're paying about $200 for that game.
Oh, I'm screwed.
Yeah, I'm like, no.
I am absolutely screwed if I want to get Marvel vs. Capcom 2 today, which is why I'm praying to whatever God will listen that that Marvel and Capcom could shake hands and be friends again and be like, okay, here's MVC2 remastered. Have fun. We're putting it back up. You can play it now on all modern consoles.
Because man, I remember when it actually first came out for the 360 and PS3. Like I screamed. I'm like, online too, man. But it got delisted. I'm like, come on, why?
Yeah.
Well, hopefully, if Disney play ball, though, man, we'll be good. So
I just want a redemption story because I do have Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. Not good.
Don't get me started on that freaking game. Oh hell.
Let's not. Well, we're going for a while. We're almost hitting 2 hours, so I think that would be a good place to end it. So, Ron, thank you so much for coming on and just ranting about games. This is one of the reasons why I love doing the show is just talking video games with someone. Thank you so much for coming on, bud.
I appreciate you having me, man. Like I said, definitely fun chopping it up with you, man. For real. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Hey, if you're ever out here in Southern California, just give me a call. I'm like, cool. We'll pick a day and I'll take you shopping. I got a lot of places to take you, bud.
I bet. Like we'll stay in contact, man. Most definitely.
That we will. Oh, you kidding me? We were talking about the XI last night, and I was like, man.
You know, it's funny too, because like I had no idea what that was until last year. Really? I did some research and whatnot because, like, when I think of Sega, I think the Model 1, the Model 2, the Model 3, the Nomad, even Sega CDX. But the JVC XI, one of my fellow streamers, his name is Black Mario. He actually had one. He sold it.
Really?
Though, like, yeah, he actually used to have one. I'm like, what the hell is this? But yeah, I'm like, wow, because I've never seen it.
I think I knew about the XI through a video of the Gaming Historian, and the reason why. Well, I told you I never actually played an XI IRL. I've only know about it through YouTube videos. Mm-hmm. And in that video, I believe he said that was a much better made than like the Sega CDX, which was the Sega CD and Genesis built in together. Because the XI, it was able to read the discs better, whereas the Sega CDX did not. There was like a bunch of loading problems with that one. So. I mean, once again, that's what I've heard because I have played a Sega CD before, and I was playing Sonic CD, and I could not get past Palm Tree Panic Act 1. Not because I couldn't beat the level, which I can. I could beat that level in my sleep. It just wouldn't load.
Speaking of Sonic CD, do you mind if I show you something real quick?
Please do. Sonic CD is my absolute favorite Sonic game of all time. That was the first one I owned. I love that game. You have a...
It is complete, too, man. I paid 80 for that.
Oh, look at that. Oh, my God. That is clean. Because I got mine for the PC back in 1995, so...
Yeah, it's a PC version. Sure is. Yep. The good thing is I can play on... So you can play on Steam nowadays, which is actually about, $5? I'm trying to get it.
The iOS version is really good.
Yeah, sure is. And what's cool about the modern versions, you can play both soundtracks, because the Japanese soundtrack is so fire. Man,
that's what everyone says, but I grew up with the American soundtrack, so for me, I use the American one. I know, sacrilege, how dare I? But that's what I grew up on, so that's the one. That's why I play. So once again, Ron, thank you so much for coming on. Where can people find you on the internet when they want to like watch your streams and like hit you up on Twitter? Where can people find you?
All right, so you can find me as Ron the Pharaoh, all accounts on Instagram and Twitter. That's what I'm mostly on. You can find me at twitch.tv/Ron the Pharaoh. I stream Tuesdays and Wednesdays, 3 p.m. Central. Fridays, Random Retro, that's 12 p.m. Central. And I'll stream on Sundays on 3 p.m. Central. So, yeah.
Nice. And I swear, one of these days, I'm going to sit down and watch one of your streams. I do have a vacation coming up. It's next month, but it's on the way. So I was like, be like, yo, I'm streaming this. I'm like, cool, I'm watching it.
Like I said, I appreciate it, though. Like I said, I know you're a busy man right now, but if you can stop by, I appreciate it.
Yeah. And, of course, open invite. If you ever want to come back on, just hit me up. We'll figure out a time to sit down and record again. This has been an absolute blast.
Hey, like I said, I appreciate you, man. For real.
Of course, bro. So, yeah, go ahead, follow this man on Twitter and Instagram. Or you don't have an Instagram, do you?
Yes. On Instagram, Ron the Pharaoh. Twitter, Ron the Pharaoh. It's the same name.
Do I follow you on Instagram? No, I'll have to check that out later. So, yeah, follow him on everywhere. And, of course, you can follow me, Ben Magnet, at BenMagnet27 on Instagram and Twitter. And also the main podcast, the Fake Nerd Podcast. You can find us pretty much everywhere you listen to your podcast, both in video and audio format. I mean, of course, you're here watching this on YouTube, so obviously you're watching the Fake Nerd Podcast channel, but also like and subscribe. So that really helps out the channel. And we're still doing the main show. We're recording our shows. We normally record on Sundays. One day, like as of this recording, we're doing a Saturday recording. But you can check us out. We're talking about nerd stuff. It's a really good time. We have a whole bunch of other shows on this channel. Fake Nerds Watch, Fake Nerds Book Club, which is on hiatus. Also, Animation Station is a really fun show. We got a lot of stuff on this channel. So go ahead, check everything out. FakeNerdPodcast.com has everything compared with that has to do with us. Links to our Patreon are there. Links to our, of course, to listen and watch the show are there. Everything's there. So once again, thank you to Ron. And for now, unpause.